brand new ending is up to you. If you don't go after what you want, it'll never be yours. If you
palm of your hand. How can you ever hold on to the truth? Move your mind in a new direction. All I ask you to think about it. Hurry now as the clock is ticking. Make your choice before it's too late. Yeah. As I see you falling down, tell me, do you believe the proposition? You measure wealth by the things you've obtained. Well, true love is always free, no equal monetarily, and nobody's feeling the shame. Move your mind in a new direction. Only ask you to think about it. Hurry now as the clock is ticking. Make your choice before it's too late. Just take a look around. As it all comes crashing down. You know I really love you. You know I thought I showed you. You know I'm sure I told you when to give and when to take. And all around you're dying, the world forever lying. And now I'm here and trying to show exactly what's at stake. Don't know what more I can say. Don't want to leave you this way. Forget about your bitterness and your hate. Don't know what more I can do to try to get through to you. I hope
Hi, this is Carrie from Tone Wars. We're going to go live in just a few minutes, but before we do, I just wanted to take a few seconds to say a few things. Jared and I really appreciate when you guys tune in and interact with us when we go live. We work very hard to make sure that our live streams and our produced videos are educational and entertaining for everyone. Believe it or not, there's a lot of work that goes into our live streams and our produced videos. So if you like what you're experiencing here, here's a couple ways you can help us out. The Super Chat feature is turned on, and any amount will be appreciated. Jared is also available for private consultation for a nominal fee. You can contact Jared through two of the links below. One is through our Tone Wars Facebook page, and the other is through email. So thank you so much for your support. The live stream's about ready to start, so go pour yourself your favorite glass of whiskey or other libation, and we'll be right with you. Cheers!
Welcome to Tone Wars. Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's another weeknight of Tone Wars, Wednesday night. I'm here with my buddy Jay from Warm Chord Music, and I want to thank you for being here. You know, we're doing a special night tonight with because we've been talking, because we've been doing a lot of profiles and sharing some information with each other and helping each other out, and we've learned a lot. And I was like, a lot of these conversations that we're having, why don't we share this stuff with the public, and have an episode about it, because there's a lot of cool stuff that we've learned by doing this last few, I've spent over 3 months for me almost for, messing around with this. And we just wanted to share the information with you guys about what we've learned so far. You've been doing it longer than me. You've been doing it for how long?
2018, about
okay.
Roughly.
Yeah, so you got a lot of knowledge background with it as well. So you've done it at your own place and at a studio. So you
Yes.
have, So you have that kind of knowledge. And Jay, you have right now, there's a link below for his profiles for his own personal Rev Generator 120. And the link's below for that. And you did those when?
Those came out in 2018.
Okay.
It was a profile pack called the Red General. And it's since been rebranded as the OG pack.
Yeah.
On my website.
Bring this back a little.
Yeah, because we're gonna be I'm gonna be releasing kind of an expansion to that. Okay. And a lot of you and I have been talking a lot lately, as you said, and a lot of what I've been working on is an updated pack, really a volume 2 and 3. So yeah. I've decided, got a little bit, I guess a little overzealous when I did the first pack, and I had a ton of profiles in there, and we'll talk about approach to that kind of thing. Yeah. But I got excited. I got to go to a studio, did a ton of profiles, and learned a lot from it. I'm still proud of the pack. It's good. A lot of good feedback on it. Yeah. There's a ton of variety in it. But what I decided to do this time is do a whole pack dedicated to the purple channel and a whole pack dedicated to the red channel. Got a whole different bunch of gear that I'm using and a different approach to it, and some other stuff that I'm using. And I thought this is a good opportunity for us to get together and talk about it, because as you've been profiling, I've been able to pass some things on to you. You've passed a lot of things on to me. Yeah, it's just playing hot potato with information, So it's like, why not pass it on to these guys? Pass it on to you guys. I mean, because a lot of people are... they're interested. They're like, is the Kemper legit? That's what went through my mind when I first got my Kemper a couple years ago. I mean, I'm playing it, and it's like, yeah, these are good, and I got some profiles, and I liked them, but then I liked others better than others, and some better than others, and you just go down this rabbit hole of which ones are best, blah blah blah, and I'm one of those people that I want to be able to trust the product. I want to see how the sausage is made, per se, so I can... There you go with the sausage. Can't be just must be my age. I want to see how the pizza is made. How's that? And not only did I make the pizza, or not only did I see how it was made, but I actually made the pizza myself, So now I know what's in it,
how much of it, why, how everything's placed and everything. And now I can trust it because it's like, it's everything, I did it, you know. And not to say that you can't trust profile makers. There's a lot of great profile makers out there that make great stuff. But I'm just saying that for me, being able to do all this myself, I really learned a lot. And that's what tonight's about, is us passing that information on with you. We have a list I'm going to pull up every once in a while of all the topics that we're going to cover, and feel free to ask us questions as well. And tag Tone Wars, put @Tone Wars in there, and I'll be able to see your question a lot easier than sifting through all the comments. That we appreciate all of the comments and questions, but if you really want me to read it, it's just easier for me to sift through all the comments and find the ones that have my tag on it, so I can find it easier. We're going to say hello to some people, and then we're going to get started, and we're just going to pretty much just bang right through all this stuff. We're actually going to be playing, I'll be playing some of my profiles, he'll be playing some of his profiles, and if everything works out, we're going to profile this live tonight and show you, like, you know, what happens, like how it sounds, and, you know, I'll A/B it with the real amp and the profile that I make with it and everything. So that's what we're going to do tonight.
We're going to invite the UFOs into your basement.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're going to make all the space noises down here. So Dave Rebell, what's going on? Mike Jacobs, what's happening, buddy? Good to see you here. Scream with M3. Scream with M3. How you doing, buddy? He said, about to play our first show using 2 Kemper stages. The more I mess with different rigs, the better it sounds. Love it. Yeah, awesome, dude. Yeah, it's a great product. I got mine right here. You can kind of see it at the bottom of the screen here. Love mine. I think it's one of the best products I've ever bought. Best money I've ever spent, really. On one, I should say, one of the things that I've spent money on that I'm very grateful for. There's a lot of things in this room that I'm glad I spent money on. So, let's see here. Shredding 51. Went back to my original 5150. Hey, I get it. I mean, amps are the best. You can't beat an amp. You know, I think, in my opinion, the Kemper's the second best thing. And if you profile it yourself, you can really, really dig into, like, what all the little details on it and get it the way you want it. And we're going to go into that, too. So I don't want to give away too much, but we'll talk about that. Christopher, what's up, man? Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Horns to Christopher. Thank you. Scream with M3 says, you can't beat a well set up tube amp. My band had pretty bad amps before we got the Kempers. The difference is astounding. Yeah, it really is. Really is, man. Let's see here. Christopher, I absolutely love digital amps. Insane versatility at any volume level. Don't get me wrong, I have a soft spot for valve amps. Yeah, me too, buddy. I just hate that they all need to be loud as hell to sound good. I get it. I mean, that's why they're attenuating amps now. That's why they come with, like, the lower wattage switches and stuff. So I get it, though.
I don't know, that that's as big of an issue now as it was years ago.
Yeah,
I definitely agree,
like the old
agree with where he's coming from.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, when you look at amps that have been coming out in the last 10 years, you know, the Rev stuff, for example, that I own, the master volume on that thing helps out so much. I think when we were in your basement back in March when we did that episode, I think we had it on like 1.5.
Oh,
maybe.
If we had it any louder, it would have killed us. I mean, God, that thing's loud.
And I do own a torpedo reload for an attenuation, you know, for that thing. Only so when I do want to play it downstairs, it's sitting right next to me through the 212 when I want the amp in the room. Exactly. I don't get yelled at by my wife. And don't wake my kids up.
Digital products and attenuators. Keeping marriages together for 10 years now. It's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, what's up, Steve? What's happening? Gravel Rocks is here. Jim Sieben, what's going on, buddy? Marty. Let's see here. You mofo. What's up, you mofo? How you doing, buddy? Mike Jacobs. Okay, so Marty's asking me a question here. I really like the 3 Sigma audio acoustic guitar IRs. They come with a Kemper profile too. Interesting. Go full Petrucci with the with the piezo acoustically. No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I was talking to Aaron Short, a friend of mine, about using an IR with my acoustic. He said that it adds more body to it, so it's something I want to try.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I want to try it. But right now I don't use an impulse response, and it gives me that kind of ethereal kind of sound, and I'll play it for you guys later. But it's just, for me, it works. But maybe I can use an IR in times where I want to get more acoustic sounding, you know. So yeah, that's the thing about digital, right? You can go so many different ways with it. Damien, what's going on, buddy? Let's see here.
And no,
Return to Coda.
Nobody stole my shoes. I was just being polite and decided to take them off when I walked into Jared's house, because every time I come to your house,
it pours.
It's like a thunderstorm. It's like the gods are thundering. It's like, here comes Jay! Time to rock!
Yeah,
with his white shorts and his white socks.
He's rocking the whitey socks today. Nice. Return to Coda. I have not been using the Kemper much. We'll still have to try your profiles. Thanks again for sending. Just been really into the Kraken and redoing my pedal board. Mule Blues, what's going on? No, I get it. Return to Coda. It's fine. I've been busy too, so I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the profiles. I sent out some for people for free, so you can check them out. Okay, so let's get started. I know we don't want to make everybody wait. We are, by the way, what we're drinking tonight is smoked old fashions that we made. Cheers, buddy.
You made.
Thanks for being here.
I'm drinking them.
But these are awesome.
I have to represent Michigan beers.
Yeah.
Okay? I got a chaser here, I guess. Pigeon Hill, no diggity, and you can't really see it very well, but it's got Chunk from the Goonies doing the truffle shuffle. It's a hazy IPA, which is my favorite type of beer, but representing, because if some of you may know, I run a podcast called Movies, Music, and Beer, which you can find anywhere, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. But we talk exactly about that: movies, music, and beer.
Exactly.
Three of my biggest.
It's
passions.
Interesting.
Yes.
It's very interesting to listen to, because you guys do good movie reviews, and you guys talk about the beer that you're drinking and some music as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
We do a lot of retro stuff. We're kind of on a kick right now of doing retro movies. So if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you'll definitely want to check that out. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, check it out, man. All right, so let's get started. We're going to blow right through well, you know what I mean. We're going to get really going here. So, all right, so we're going to briefly talk about each topic, and we will check for questions before we move on to the next topic. And make sure you tag Tone Wars, please, so I can see your question easier. Because honestly, on my end, I'm just seeing comments go scrolling by, and I want to make sure I answer everybody's questions and not make people feel like I'm blowing them off. That's the main goal here. So briefly, why did we get started? How did we get started doing this? You go ahead and start, and we'll just briefly talk about that.
Okay. So I did not have a tube amp when I got my Kemper. I did the tube amp thing for a long time and was getting into recording and needed to get a new amp, and decided to try the Kemper. I think it was right when the Kemper came out. So it was like 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the time there really wasn't many commercial profiles out there. I think like Amp Factory and maybe a few others.
Yeah.
But there really wasn't much to choose from. It was pretty much what you got in the Kemper, what was available on Rig Exchange, and a couple commercial profilers of note. And I found some stuff that I liked, but I'll be honest with you, I was not overly impressed with some of the sounds I was getting. Were good, but not really what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of vintage stuff. Some, really heavy stuff too, but I'm kind of more of a punk rock, hard rock guy. And so I was looking for tones that fit my playing style better. It took me a while before I actually decided, should I actually make my own profiles? When you first get the Kemper, it's like, the way they marketed that at first was all about, you can take your collection and you can profile it. You can take it with you anywhere. Well, what if you don't have an amp collection?
Yeah.
Now
you got to buy somebody else's profiles.
I don't have, I've got the Kemper, I've got this toaster, and that's it. And so years went by, and I got better and better at recording, and I started doing all my own recordings and mixing and everything. I decided, I'm just going to rent my buddy's studio out for the day and take my Kemper with me. And had just gotten the Rev Generator 120.
Yeah.
So this is in like 2016.
Yeah.
I had bought and sold a couple Kempers, kept going back to it, tried other digital products, and Kemper I knew had the potential to get the sounds that I wanted, but it was a matter of finding them.
Yeah.
Whether it was somebody that was making them or it was making them myself. And now I've got this amp that I love, and I'm totally passionate about it, and I'm a big fan of Rev. I've talked about them endlessly, and I'm like, more people need to know about this amp.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a good amp. Like, I want to share it with people. I want them to be successful. I want them to come out with more product.
Yeah.
So decided I'm going to do a pack for myself. I'm going to take this amp to my buddy's studio with mics that I don't own, with my cabinet, and I'm going to see what happens. And we profiled for, I want to say, a good 4 or 5 hours that day, just trying different things. And, it learned a lot going through the process.
Oh, yeah.
But, I would say that there were times where I'm like, okay, it got a little bit frustrating. You're trying to figure this whole thing out. How does this work? How do I route everything?
There are moments where you get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah. All these different mic combinations.
It's a big learning curve.
Yeah, we were trying all these different things, and we found what worked and went with that. Took them home, was really happy with them, made more profiles, and decided to sell those in 2017, 2018. Put way too many profiles in the pack. And
there's an avalanche of profiles.
Yeah, it's like, here you go. Yeah. There was some really cool experiments that were done through those, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But that's really how I got started. It was just a matter of, I've got an amp that I love now.
Yeah.
I want to try to use the Kemper in a way I've never used it before, which was the original intention, was to profile
your stuff,
your own amps.
Yeah.
So
no, gotcha. And for me, it was pretty much, I do, as a lot of you guys know, like every Wednesday night, I usually go live with a new amp or a piece of gear or something, and usually they're amps. And I started getting all these people that know that I have a Kemper. They're all like, dude, are you profiling these amps? And I'm like, no. And it started, and after like the 50th time people asked me, I started thinking, like, why ain't I doing that? And then I thought about, well, how do I do it? And then I had to start my own journey down the rabbit hole and through the learning curve and the frustration. And I'm telling you, man, hats off to all the profile makers out there, because I'm not kidding you. It's not easy. It's easy, but it's not easy. It's easy to do as far as the hooking up and everything and like the gear that you need. You don't have to spend $1 billion on it. But it's like it's not easy to make them sound awesome. I mean, you got to really know how to mic things and hook things up and just be honest with yourself on what you're playing and hearing. So, and what you're feeling, because there's all these other things. There's feel, there's sound, there's how clean is it? I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff you got to think about. So anyways, I went through that whole thing, and I started kind of making some headway, and I sent some to some friends, and they were like, dude, these are really good. I'm like, okay. And then I compared them to some people that I trust, like Live Ready Sound. I compared with those. Tim's makes amazing stuff, Reamp Zone, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, and I'm not, and again, I say this with respect. I compared them to them because I look up to them guys. And I felt like I was starting to get to a point where I was making some respectable profiles, and I started going, you know what? I think I can fund, like my channel with this and try to like make some income off of selling these. But I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I love it, and I want to get paid because it's my time, obviously, and I'm buying amps and gear and stuff to do it with. But and on top of that, just on a selfish note, like, I love my profiles. I mean, nobody will make a better profile for you than you will for yourself, because you know exactly what you like and what you want. And I mean, and you can sit down here ad nauseum and make them until you're happy, where you won't drive someone else nuts like that, but you'll drive yourself nuts. And it's really cool. But so that's basically how I did it. My website's launching on the 20th of this month, with some packs on it, and I'll be uploading more after that. So the initial launch will be on the 20th. And I just think it's fun to do. I've learned a lot. I've become a better player and a better, just gear nerd with it and everything. So that's kind of what got me started and why I'm doing it. Because I think there's a need out there, and I say this with all humility, like for both of our flavors. I mean, there's room for your flavor to be out there. There's room for my flavor to be out there. There's plenty of people out there that would like one or other, or both, whatever, of our stuff. And I just think it's nice to be able to contribute to the Kemper community some stuff. So, all right, so let's talk about, is there anybody tagging me yet? Just want to make sure. I don't see. Oh, Marty's asking, how many amps did you buy and return after Kemper profiling? Actually, none. I buy them and keep them. I honestly do that because that's actually something that Henning did an episode about.
Yeah,
he went freaking ballistic on people for doing that.
It made me feel guilty owning a Kemper.
Yeah,
at one point.
I know.
I have never done that, and the reason why I've never done that is because I've never bought an amp with the thought process of profiling it.
Yeah.
I want to play it.
That is a hilarious question though, because there's a lot of people that do that.
Oh, it's absolutely I mean, if your end goal, and I think somewhere we're going to talk about this, but if your end goal is to like make profiles to sell them, then I can see where that's going to happen for people. But I've never really had that thought process.
Yeah.
I like making profiles. It's fun. For me, it's creative.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, and it's taught me a lot about mic positioning and trying different things.
Yeah.
But I only buy amps or modules
because you like them.
Because it fits the type of playing I do or the music I play.
And you just happen to share them with people. Like, I mean, every amp that I buy it for me because I love it. And then every amp that I profile because I think other people would like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I buy the amp for me first. And then on the part of my brain that justifies the purchase is like, well, you could profile it and pay it off.
Think about it this way too. If you're going in the studio, or you're at home and you're doing home recording, what would people do back in the day when they get their guitar tone? They would take a notepad and they would make notes.
Yeah.
Okay, setting is on this and all this, right? Well, think about it this way: if you get a Kemper profile that you really like, you can go in there and label, what mics you used, what cabinet you used, where you put the mic at if you want to get down to that level. There's a whole comment section for almost each area of the for the profile. So you could go back and you could be doing demos for a song that you're working on, and you could, oh man, I really, that's the sound I remember getting when I was in the studio, or that's the sound I used for this one song. You just go in there and see, oh, okay, how did I get that sound? I used my 421 and my 57 on this cabinet. It's something, it kind of makes it brings it to life instead of just looking at a notepad,
Oh, yeah, exactly, and it helps you remember it all. I'm going to take one more question here before we move on to the next topic. Marty's asking me, I think you had this mic, or at least something like it. So now there is a OC818 from Austrian Audio microphone. It will blow your mind. Now you have to redo all your models. Would you do that or give us a new pack? You had some kind of mic that changed. It had models in it.
Yeah, the Townsend Labs Sphere.
Gotcha.
Okay. I had that mic. It's a really cool mic, and I use it mostly for drum overheads and vocals. But for guitar, it wasn't working so much for me, and I think partly I use an isolation box now.
We'll go over that too.
And it was getting too boomy.
Okay.
So it wasn't working for me. It was really big and hard to position in there.
Gotcha. Okay, so to answer your question, so basically what you do with packs is you update them. So like if I came into a new mic, I would update the pack with like maybe 5 or 6 profiles that I did with that mic, or that mic paired with other mics. And then I would update the pack and email everybody, and they would get a free update. So that's basically how I would do it. So yeah, it's a good question though, because that's really what you do. Over time, you're going to update your packs, because we're going to get new mics, and we'll go over mics in a little bit here. But that's how it works. So that's something a lot of profile makers do. They always send out updates, pack update, and honestly, like, we get better as we go too. So there will be times where I discover a new trick and go, oh my God, the new way I'm doing profiles now blows away all the profiles I ever made. So I'll update the pack. I'll keep the other ones in there, but I'll add more and say, here you go. Here's a free update. And if you like them, then you'll use them too. So that's how it works. So, all right, so let's go over how accurate are the profiles to the real amps. Let's briefly talk about that. I'll let you go ahead and start with that because you can talk about how accurate it is to your rev.
It's very accurate. I won't say that I would say some profiles are closer than others. I don't know if that makes sense. I've had some profiles where I've shot it and it's been pretty much right on the money where I don't have to touch it. And I'm like, wow, that sounds just like, what's coming through my monitors when I'm miking it up. There's been other profiles where, it sounds like I'm throwing too much information at the Kemper or something. Usually when for me, I found it's been on the low end. I know you've talked about it being for you sometimes more on the top end. There's been some situations where, going through this new batch profiles I've been making, I've found the low end at times has been, I wouldn't say the bass hasn't been there. It's not like it's thin. It's just there's been times where I felt like there's a little bit of bottom end that's just slightly missing when I compared it to the reference.
So it's not as resonant?
Yeah, I would say it's almost like a depth, like the depth setting on your amp. It's almost like someone kind of turned it down on me.
Okay.
When I didn't want them to. Yeah. And I've found a way to compensate for that in cases where I've needed to do that.
Yeah.
But I would say it's for me, I would say it's 92 to 95%.
Okay.
It's a weird number to choose. I find sometimes that it gets to 99% and other times it's closer to 90%. It just kind of wavers. It just depends. It really depends, and a lot of times, like I said, it depends on sometimes how much gain and how much low end I'm throwing at it and whether or not the Kemper is able to pick all of that up.
Gotcha. And for me, I found it to be about the same, anywhere from 90 to 98%, or even 99, I would say, depending on the amp, because I've done a lot of amps. You've done mainly the rev stuff for right now, and you've done a couple other modules and stuff. And with all the amps that I've been doing here, I'll tell you, some are more accurate than others, and we'll get into that later. But I've found it to be very accurate, because basically, and I think I speak for both of us when I say this, when I do a profile, I actually test it. I'll do several tests before I start shooting a bunch of them. And there's a way to A/B it on here so that you can hear the real amp and the Kemper version of it. And I use my in-ears, I use studio monitors, and stuff like that, and make sure that I'm capturing it properly. And once I get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is magic. I got a great mic setting. I got the mics are aimed perfectly. It's just the amp's dialed in right. And the Kemper's just capturing this in a way that just works for me. And I could totally do it. And so once I A/B it back and forth and I really feel like I've captured it, then I start shooting profiles and changing knobs and stuff like that. And every once in a while, it's kind of like the ice cream tasters. I don't know if you ever watch How It's Made, but they don't taste a little bit out of every carton. It'd be weird to get this little spoonful missing. They'll take a carton, every 20 or 30 of them, and pop it out, and the guy will taste it, be like, all right, there's enough chocolate chips in this, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like what I do with the Kemper profiles. Every once in a while, I'll go back in and test them after I've, shot several. And if it's getting way off course, I'll try to find out why, but usually it's not the case. Some amps, again, I think are more accurate. It's more accurate than others, and we'll get into that later. But one thing I will say is the trouble that you had with the low end, there were times I had it with the top end, and what I found that I had to do, let's say this amp right here, let's say on the PRS MT15, it wasn't picking up the top end of the amp very well. So what I would end up doing is I would exaggerate the treble on the amp, and then because the Kemper just wasn't hearing the top end the way I wanted it to. So let's say I had the treble at noon. I would put it at 3 o'clock. And then when I A/B'd it, I would put the treble on the amp back at noon, and see if the Kemper captured the treble how it would sound at noon, if that makes sense, right? And I'd A/B it and go, there it is. So sometimes you have to yell at the Kemper. You have to exaggerate a setting on the amp for the Kemper to capture it properly, because it's only speaking in ones and zeros. It's an algorithm, So
let me throw something at you that I already know the answer to, but maybe some folks don't, is why not just go ahead, do your profile, refine it, and then make adjustments on the Kemper EQ itself?
Well, basically, because I want my stuff to be organic. I want it to be as organic as I can, number one. So when you get a profile from me, I haven't messed with it to a point where it's like, well, this sounds like crap, but I'm going to do a bunch of stuff to it to artificially make it sound better. If it doesn't sound good from the start, I scrap it and do another one. And I change things on the amp, not the Kemper.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the EQ sweep on the Kemper is basically, it's a mastering EQ. It's not an amp EQ. It's not like the treble knob on this amp does not act anywhere near close to what the treble knob on the Kemper acts. They're two totally different things.
Yeah, this is where there is a difference between modeling and profiling. Because
Yes.
with the models are made to, react the way that an amp does. Whether it does it accurately or not, whatever.
Yeah.
But the point
Yeah.
is that when you buy an Axe-Fx, and I've owned Axe-Fx stuff before. I was on your show with one. The idea is that they're taking the way that a treble, mid, bass responds on a Mark V or on a, Fender twin reverb or whatever, and it imparts that onto the model, so it would respond in a similar fashion. Whereas, with I keep pointing this because I expect there to be a Kemper there, but it's not. It's right there. So you said the lunchbox, the toaster.
Yeah.
But it's a one size fits all EQ. No matter what you put into it, that EQ is profiling at that point. Now it doesn't care about what the profile is. It's going to EQ it the same way for every profile. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, because the treble knob on the Kemper is not supposed to mimic the amp, because if you took 10 amps and put them in here, the treble knob or the bass or the mid knob on all of them will have a different sweep. They're all going to have a different starting point and ending point and everything in between on all the knobs. They're all different. They're just different cues, I guess you want to say, on that. So you can't have a Kemper that'll mimic every single amp. It's not possible. So you have to look at it as a mastering EQ. You really do. And again, if I'm not capturing the Kemper with the Kemper, the amp's high end or mids or whatever properly, I don't go in with a studio EQ afterwards and fix it unless I absolutely have no other choice, because it's just a quirky amp, which we will get into. There are exceptions to everything, and there's people that'll watch this that have been profiling a lot longer than us and probably go, agree or disagree with some of the things that we're saying. We're just telling you what we've learned so far, and it's pretty raw. I mean, there's a lot of good information we're going to share with you guys. So, but I can assure you that if you get any of my profiles, everything's organic. They're not going to be all tweaked up and homogenized to sound right. If they don't sound right organically in their raw form, I will not put it in the pack,
You do have a couple comments here, and one that Brad, I'm sorry if I say your name wrong. Is it Shimke?
Oh, Shimke, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Since you do movies on your channel, please explain to Jared he needs to watch The Big Lebowski. I'm still floored he's never seen it. Okay, so I did not see The Big Lebowski until last year.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm a big movie guy, but
I'll watch it.
For some reason, I just never did. And I watched it, and I laughed my butt off. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But there was one point where it was like the trip scene, and my wife walked in the door, and she's like, "What the hell are you watching?" I was just like, "I don't know."
I don't know.
I was, drinking a little bit at the time, but which made it even better. But and then Marty asked, so if you're missing some high end, you could use a different mic, but how about changing the type of speaker in the cab? And we're going to get to speakers.
Yeah, we'll get to speakers, mics, and cabs. But you can do that. But what I'm trying to do is, like, all of my profiles so far are on Mesa 212 with vintage 30s in it. So I'm trying to. That's like a standard for me.
Yeah, and a great one. That's an awesome. I mean, that's like a
for my genre. It's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm trying to capture that, and there are times that yes, I will aim the mic closer to the center and stuff like that. But if I can't capture it organically. I'll try to move a mic. I'll try to position things differently or whatever. But I try to, because I don't really have other speakers. He does, but I don't. And so I'm just trying to capture the best I can with what I have. It's a great suggestion. I think Carrie said, hi, Carrie. She said, she super chatted us. She said, Jay needs to do an impression of Jared doing an impression of Arnold.
What you doing? Get out of here. Watch my biceps flex. Get out of here now. My biceps going to reach over and hit you in the face. Get out. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Where's my $5?
Yeah, that goes in my bank, sucker.
Oh, man. I'm done. See you.
Oh, man. That's funny.
I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Yeah, well,
It's become a thing now.
Oh, man. Okay.
He works hard for the money.
All right, so we covered how accurate is it. We think it's pretty accurate. It's in the 90s, minimally. The most inaccurate, I think, so far the Kemper has been is 90%. But normally, I'm in the higher 90 percentile, as far as my profiles go with just about every amp. I mean, it literally is like legit as far as the accuracy goes. There are fine, like minute things that if you're really honest with what you're hearing and feeling, and you would make some adjustments, you can attenuate for those things and get that accuracy up. Like if I'm not happy with 95, I can get a 98% if I just tweak some things with how I'm doing the profile. Not afterwards, but before. But one thing I'll say is with the afterwards is the definition knob is your best friend as a profiler, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It's
weird how that reacts too, because there's times where I don't expect it to be as high as what it is. Like there was one I did for the Nightmare pack I'm working on that came out to like 10. I'm like, what?
What? Yeah.
Really? I'm like, okay. And then you're like, well, 10's pretty high. I think I should probably back it down a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, it depends on the amp, but
I won't keep. I mean, when I said 92 to 95%, I feel like that's an average for me.
Yeah.
I definitely have, had ones that were closer at 90%, and I'll just trash it and start over.
Yeah.
I don't release anything or try to put anything out there that I myself would not use, and if it's not in that 98 to 100%, I'm not going to even bother keeping it even in my own Kemper, let alone put it in a pack. But I just think sometimes you profile something, it's sounding great through the monitors. You're like, oh, this should sound great. Mm-hmm. You profile it, and it's like, it's almost there.
I've had some stinkers too.
But it's just missing a little bit, and then you go to refine it because that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And sometimes it ends up being worse.
Yeah, refining is definitely something interesting.
That's something I called you about, and I was like, hey, the next time you do a profile, don't refine it.
And it turned out 10 times better. And I was like, thank God. So I'm not sitting here going,
oh, yeah.
For hours. So, yeah, it definitely, there's times when you have to, but I'd rather not. So, I mean, that's a testament to the Kemper, too, how accurate it is, because you don't have to do all that stuff. As long as you mic it up right and you know what you're doing, you're setting up the amp properly. I'm oversimplifying it, but, I mean, as long as you get to basic steps right, it'll do a good job, and that is a testament to its accuracy. So, next topic is, why do profiles of the same amp differ so much from all of the profile makers? I mean, I'm going to give you a list right now, and then we'll unpack it. You got the profiler's taste. You have mics, cabs, speakers, mic placement, mic preamps, other gear like outboard gear, boards, different things that they run everything through. The environment, depending on like what room they're in, that definitely has some say, unless they're covering up the speaker like I do. I got a ton of blankets over my cabinet because I don't want any room environment in mine. I want it to be raw and pure. So, but some guys don't. Some guys actually have an open room and they don't cover the cab up. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no right or wrong. It's just I don't like that. So, and how much tweaking they do before, and basically who are they for? Like, are they for a studio, for a player? And we'll get into that in a second too. But the other thing too is even the guy's background. So like, in other words, like if I'm a metal player and I'm making jazz profiles, you'd probably be better off buying jazz profiles for a guy who plays jazz, because I don't want a vegan cooking my steak, right? I mean, I want like a guy that actually eats steak to cook my steak because he knows what's supposed to go into it. So that's what you won't see from me anyways, is I'm not going to be doing profiles that are outside of my genre, because I'm literally a vegan cooking steaks at that point.
What about that country pack? Country players pack you said you were working on?
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
He laughs, but
Chicken picking.
He just showed me the box art.
Yeah.
So.
No.
It's him wearing a cowboy hat. Like,
woohoo! No, so basically, so that's basically why they sound different. Like, you could take, let's just take a Bogner Uberschall, okay, and you could send it to 10 different profile makers, and it'll sound completely different. Each pack will sound completely different. Let's say they each did 5 profiles of that amp the way that they like to do them. There'll be very little similarities between those profiles when you get them. So you have to pick the pack that works best for you, and it's because of all those reasons. Because one guy's using a Neve mic or a SM57 with a Royer 121 combination. Another guy's going to use a Sennheiser E609 and a freaking i5 like what I use. And some guy like Jay, he'll have a Box of Doom with all these different speakers. And, so even if you use the same speaker, the same cabinet, and the same amp, they're still going to sound completely different. Because mic placement, you move a mic 1/4 of an inch, everything, it's out the window. Like, everything's different now. So, and then you got the guy's taste, because let's face it, you don't release profiles that you think suck, but you're going to be like, well, they think somebody will like it.
I think you start getting into dangerous territory when you start making profiles that you yourself don't believe in, but you think someone else might like.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I've always had this pretty hard line approach to that, and that I'm never going to do that.
You got to be able to stand behind your product.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I don't love it, then how can I expect anybody else to?
Well, not only that, but if anybody ever complains and says, hey, man, I got your pack, and, like, these are not good, you can't say, I mean, the worst thing you can say is, like, yeah, I don't think they're any good either, but I was hoping somebody would like them. I mean, what kind of business model is that?
I had the gain all the way up to 10 and scooped the mids completely. I thought that's what you'd want.
Yeah, so you have to be proud of what you're releasing. Now, will I have...
What do you want from me?
Yeah, exactly. I mean...
Get out!
Get out! But the thing is, though, is in my packs, there's ones that I like better than others, but it doesn't mean that none of them... I hate this one, but I like them all. It's just, you're always going to have favorites, so it's just the way it is. But, but getting back to the main point here, again, if you have the same amp, same speakers, even the same mics sent to 10 different profile makers, the profiles will all sound different from each other. Each pack will have its own flavor, its own kind of mojo, because, and it won't be subtle. It'll actually be pretty obvious, So the best thing that you can do is find a profile maker that kind of speaks your language, and then stick with them and try other stuff, obviously, from time to time, because it's nice to have that variety. But it's just nice to find somebody that speaks your language, and then you buy their profiles, and no matter what amp they make, it's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of how I would have dialed it in, because it's not just the mics either. It's the knobs. It's like how he dialed it in, and again, he's dialing it in to a point where it's like, oh, I like this, I'm shooting this one, and then they shoot it, so they have to like it, so your taste has to line up with theirs. So that's why they're all so different, because to the guys that are new to Kemper, there's probably a lot that they don't realize is like, and I was the same way, I was like, well, this is what this amp really sounds like. No, it's not. This is what this amp sounds like when it's mic'd up that way.
It's a snapshot, man.
Yeah.
It is. It's a moment in time, and
Yep.
and that's the thing. I think I've bought a Friedman JJ. I owned a Friedman JJ head at one point, and I've tried profiles from probably 3 different profile makers, and they all sounded completely different, and none of them sounded the way that I had set that amp up. So
Yeah.
so it's, it's one of those things where you're gonna, I guess put it this way: if you're following a certain profile maker, I won't name names, that is coming out with all like boutique like vintage amps that's getting more like clean and edge of breakup tones, and they sound awesome and they do a great job, and then all of a sudden they come out with a
metal pack,
a diesel VH4 profile. I'm not saying like never buy it. I'm just saying be a little bit cautious.
Yeah, don't jump in the water head first. Just stick your toes in.
Just because, and it's not because they don't know what they're doing. It's just because, what if they're using like a Cascade Fathead and a 57 on all of these, low gain amps that they do, which that mic combination is great for that.
Yeah.
But then when you go to take a Cascade Fathead ribbon mic like that and you go to put it in the same position on the speaker for a high gain amp, you're going to get a lot more low end.
Yeah.
And with metal tones, you got to be careful with that because it can get tubby really quick.
Well, and plus the other thing too is I find that guys that come outside of their genre to make profiles that are outside of what they do, it becomes a cartoon version of it. Everything is like, oh, well, here's a high gain one. Let's crank the gain all the way up and scoop the mids. And it's like, dude, that's like the cartoon version of it. That's so exaggerated. And again, like, who do you want to cook your steak? A vegan or a butcher? A butcher. I used to work for a butcher, and that guy knew like how to cook meat. I mean, the guy was amazing. He gave me all these great recipes. So that's what I want. And again, like Jay said, I'm not saying don't ever buy profiles from somebody that doesn't make that kind of stuff normally. But I would say, you got a free sample, let me try out what you got before I spend $30 on this, So, but you won't really see that from me unless I have somebody come over special with an amp and they're here with me and they're like, hey man, I think this would be a cool amp to add to your collection. And I'd be like, well, then you're dialing it in, not me. I'll do the profiles, but you're going to have to prove of how this amp is dialed in, before I shoot these, because I don't want my reputation, because the thing is like if somebody tries my profiles, or this goes for any profile maker, if somebody tries my jazz profiles, but I'm a metal guy, and they try them and then they go out and say, yeah, did you try Tone Wars profiles? Yeah, I didn't really like them very much. And he's having a conversation with a metal guy. Guess what the metal guy's going to do? Not buy them from me. He's going to go somewhere else. So I don't want my reputation to be tied to that, So I'm going to be very careful about what I do. So let's see. Marty had another question. He said, "What speakers do you use to A/B the profile with the cab?" Okay, I use my in-ears a lot of times because I'm sitting here and I got them on. And the reason why I can use these and trust them is because every Wednesday and even Sundays I dial in amps and play the backing tracks, and I'm always doing like stuff like that. And I always check the show afterwards and go, I wonder how this sounded tonight when I dialed it in. And I dial it in with these. And every time so far, I've been right. Every single time I've dialed stuff in with these just for the show, I listen to it back. I listen back to it, and I'm like, wow, that tone sounds amazing. So I've learned to trust these. But I also, at the end, I'll check them with my studio monitors too. So... but yeah, that's pretty much what I do. So next topic is, well, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but big profile packs, good or bad? Yeah, so
this guy.
What's up with that? Trying to get my mouse to wake up here. Yeah, so...
I thought you were going to do like the Dumb and Dumber thing. Like,
oh.
it was him.
It was him, not me.
So my very first profile pack has 60 profiles in it.
That's a lot.
Okay.
That is a lot.
And, a lot of that was experience of buying profile packs from other profilers and saying, oh man, there's like 60 profiles in here. I guess that's what you should do.
Yeah.
People want variety. They want lots of different sounds. And how can I take this amp and like show them like everything instead of chunking it out, which is what I'm doing now. But there's a lot of variety in that pack, and one of the profiles I brought with me, and I don't know if you loaded it in or not, is a fuzz tone that I did. I threw everything at that pack. Like I was trying lots of different things. And
you went to Disneyland for the first time, and you're riding everything.
Well, I was getting good sounds. I tried so many things.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's profiles using cabs, there's profiles where I did different speaker simulation things with the torpedo setup that I was getting really good results with. There's my buddy's cabinet that we use at the studio, my Rev cabinet, direct profiles. I mean, it was like...
It's easy to get caught up in it and do a ton.
And I just figured that's what the value was. Yeah. And now, you know, going back and looking at other packs that I've purchased and looking at my approach to it now, my approach has changed. I'm being completely transparent here. That pack it was a labor of love, but I am never doing a 60 profile pack again. And it's not because I don't believe in all the profiles. It's just, I know right now the work I'm putting into doing these packs and how meticulous I'm being and how I'm approaching it. And no one wants to label 60 profiles.
Oh my God, that's the worst part about doing it, is all the freaking labeling.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
God,
I mean,
batch labeling helped me a lot though. There's a
there's a PDF in there that tells you what all the different acronyms mean and everything, and you've been doing stuff like that too, just to make it easier for somebody. Legend. When I did my pack, that you really couldn't do like the labeling and the rig manager that way. It wasn't really, I don't think it was available yet. So I had to hand do almost everything. And that sucked bad.
Well, the thing is with the big packs, like there's some exceptions. Okay, so like here's the reasons why I don't like them. From a because I play Kemper as well. So from a player's standpoint, you get into that whole thing where it's like option paralysis. You don't even know what you like anymore. And by the time you do find something you think you like, your ears are so fatigued that you really don't know if you like this or not because your ears are fatigued. And then I've talked to so many people about this. You get up the next morning, you grab your coffee, and you're like, yeah, I found my crazy awesome Kemper profile, and I'm going to play it, drink my coffy, and you're like, what was I thinking? That sounds like ass.
I did one with the Sennheiser 906 mic, and I had been listening to this mic for an hour straight on the Celestion Vintage 30, and it's one of the packs I'm working on, and I did like 3 profiles in a row. I'm like, oh, you know, and then I came downstairs the next day. I'm like, these are not what I want. And so but there was a video I watched on YouTube, and I forgot who did it. I wish I could give them credit for it, but he talked about how like within 35 seconds, like the human ear, like it basically adapts to whatever it's hearing at whatever frequency, and things that normally wouldn't sound good to you, like after enough time of getting used to it, your ear starts to adjust, and it no longer is a problem anymore.
Well,
so you're no longer being objective.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is it's kind of like analogy I'll use is the drinking orange juice right after brushing your teeth. Tastes like crap. But you know, when you're brushing your teeth, you're not in there gagging going, oh, this toothpaste tastes like crap. It's just they both are fine. They're both palatable, but they don't mix. And a lot of times when you're cycling through profiles, you'll think something sounds like crap because of the one that you heard before it, but maybe that could have been your favorite one. But since you're bouncing around so much, your ears are just like getting confused. Orange juice tastes amazing, you know, but just don't brush your teeth before you drink it, you know, or at least right before. Like, you have to give your ears or your palate time to kind of chill out a little bit and then select a new one. So a lot of times, and that goes back to the whole extra large profile packs, is that what you're giving somebody is there's a perceived value there because you're like, oh, $25 and I got 8 billion profiles. What a deal. And it's like, well, have fun sifting through that. It's like the bargain bin of movies at Walmart at 2 a.m. You know, you're like, they all suck except for the one at the bottom, you know? So it's like by the time you get it, you don't even want to watch the movie anymore. You know,
the profile pack that I did the first one, my goal with that one was variety. So I can say confidently, like, you could thumb through that pack and you're not going to find very many profiles that sound similar. It's not a situation where, oh, he moved the gain down a notch, or, you know, the treble is barely changed. I mean, you are going to notice a difference quite a bit. It's more of a situation of here's 5 profiles with this cabinet, here's 5 profiles with that cabinet situation. But the packs that you get that are like 60 to 70 profiles, and the only thing different is like a minor setting, it gets to the point where you don't even know what's good anymore.
Yeah,
and you don't
or
know
what's
which
different.
like. So imagine this: you've got this big profile pack.
Yeah.
You paid $25, $30 for
Yeah.
it. You're like, oh man, 70 profiles. This
Yeah.
is awesome. I'm definitely going to find what I'm looking for in there, right?
Yeah.
And then you decide which one you want to use to lay down a demo. And now you're like, crap. I've got 5 profiles in a row here that sound almost the same.
Yeah.
How do I mean, how can you honestly make a decision about which one you're going to use?
Well, and by the time you got to those, your ears are fatigued. So you're picking them with fatigued ears. So the next day you get up with fresh ears, and then you fire up that mix or that profile. You're literally, I would say 70% of the time you're going to hate it. You're going to absolutely hate that profile. So, and here's the other thing. From a profiler's standpoint, making that many, our ears get fatigued. So after a while, we're thinking, yeah, these sound great. And then the next morning, I've done it. Guilty as charged. I've done it. I've come down the next morning and tested out my awesome profiles and threw up.
I can't
It
do
was, like,
I can't do profiling for more than an hour at a time.
Yeah.
I can't. I have to walk away. And sometimes I've told you, like, we've talked.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I haven't profiled in 3 days. I can't hear the same sounds anymore.
You know what I did?
I just can't.
There was a day I profiled 4 amps in a day.
I can't do it.
And I came down here the next day and I scrapped all of them.
Yeah.
I literally deleted everything. And I'm like, I have to start. So I found out I wasted my time. So here's the thing. It's the same thing on our end as a profiler as it would be on a player's end. And I'm a player too. So are you. It's the same thing. You go through all this work finding something, dialing it in, do this, do that, save it in all your performances with all your effects and everything. You come down the next day and it sounds like crap and you scrap the whole thing. So what I'm doing, what I'm offering is to solve this, because I'm on both sides. You know, I don't just make profiles. I was a player first. So what I'm doing is I'm giving you folders of raw profiles that are called as is, and then tailored. So it's like you can go to the tailored folder and go, here's ones that are just ready to go. Like, this is a tight rhythm sound. You don't have to adjust the gain unless your taste requires you to do it up and down a little bit. There's some effects on there that are useful. Adjust them to the taste as well. But there's very little adjustments that you have to do. And it's a small folder. There's just a handful of profiles. I probably have like 4 or so rhythm profiles and 4 or so lead profiles. And maybe a clean 1 or 2 or whatever, depending on if the amp has a clean channel. That's it. So you go there first, find your go-tos, and run with them. Okay? And you're pretty much done. And then later on, if you just want to get squirrely, you can go in the as-is folder and pick out some and tailor them to your own taste as well. So I just think doing that, even if I do have a bigger pack, I will... Because some amps have a lot of settings, like the JP Mark II, the JP Mark V 25 has a clean channel with a regular and a fat mode. It also has the 2C mode. It also has the Mark IV mode, and it also has the extreme mode. That's 5 modes. I got a profile, and I got to capture it. So it's a little bit bigger of a pack, but I'm separating things in folders for you to help you.
My packs going forward, the OG pack is not like this, but the new ones will be arranged in folders based on speaker. And that's just because that's a good idea. That's just because my setup is different and my approach is a little bit different. Probably more similar to what you'd find like with impulse response packs.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you have questions for us, just tag Tone Wars so we don't interrupt your conversations that you're having with each other. And we want to make sure that we don't miss your comments either. So please feel free to do that. Okay, so I think we beat that one to death. So let's go on to the next one, which is what are our different our philosophies on profiling? You know, we kind of touched on this, so we'll just kind of just polish it off here with some final thoughts. You know, so basically, Should we make profiles that we think everybody would like, or certain people like I said earlier, like, oh, if you're a jazz player, I should make profiles for jazz players or blues players or hockey players, or it's like, or should I stick with my genre? My thought is I'm sticking with my genre. And again, there's always exceptions, but if I have a guy that comes over here that plays country, and he's an amazing player, and he's got an amp that sounds killer, and he knows how to dial it in, I'll profile that amp with his stamp of approval on the settings. But that would be the only exception. I'm not going to grab a country amp and come down here and pretend that I know how to dial it in. I think that's very, foolish of me, first of all, and I'm going to ruin my reputation by doing that, and waste your time and money. I'm sticking with my genre.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is sometimes you don't know. Like when you first buy your Kemper and you're like, hey, everyone tells me that the stock sounds are, okay, but, I got to go out and spend money to get profiles. I think, with all the different commercial profilers out there, it can be a challenge navigating those waters and trying to figure out what to do. And you can go on the forums and look for people's advice and stuff. Sometimes those profilers are cool enough to put sample packs on Rig Manager, and you can check those out. I did that myself before I even released any profiles out there, before I even thought about charging any money for them. I put some free ones out there, asked people for their opinion, and that's kind of the route that I went. But
keep talking, I'll be right back.
Yeah, the thing with the different profile packs out there is a lot of them make it tough because they don't always tell you what their approach is, or who it's for. Sometimes with the branding, depending on the website, you can kind of tell if it's really more for like a metal player or for a rock player versus like vintage stuff. You can tell by what kind of amps that they offer. So it just kind of depends. But I would definitely, go on forums, ask other people, try to get an idea just by doing your own research, see what free profiles. I mean, most reputable profilers are going to have a sample pack available, or something for free that you can check out. And if what they're offering for free isn't something that you're into, then more than likely it's probably not really worth spending your money on it. Brad Shimke asked, do you plan on using the torpedo captor to create any profiles? Seems like it would make the sky would be the limit with experimenting. I can't speak for Jared, but I can tell you that there are several profiles in the profile pack that I came out with a couple years ago. I think it was the Torpedo Studio that I had, and I was doing a lot of blending of different IRs, and it worked great. It really did. Again, the Kemper is profiling a signal chain. It doesn't care what you throw at it. It doesn't matter if it's a bass amp, if it's a guitar amp, if it's a keyboard amp. At the end of the day, the Kemper doesn't know the difference between a speaker cabinet or a line out of your interface or whatever it is. So they were asking about,
heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it really is up to you and your creativity to decide what you want to profile. And I've personally, from experience, I can say that process works out really, really well. As long as you've got a good source, as long as it sounds good to you, the Kemper should be able to replicate that.
Well, it's a good question too, Brad, because I just got mine, and thanks to you and Mike Hasty, twisted my arm into getting one.
The Captor X.
Yeah, the Captor X. I got that, and I will be going live with that soon. But yeah, I'm going to use it for, I was looking for something that I could do direct profiles with, because I love direct profiles. It doesn't get more pure than that. There's no mics involved. There's no cab. There's no guessing. It's just turn the knobs the way you like them, profile the amp, and hook it up to a real power section and cab, and like half of the rabbit hole is gone. I mean, it's about as real as you're going to get, and they sound and feel amazing. So in order to do that, you need something that carries a load, which the Captor does. So there I go. There's my source for doing full-blown direct profiles with no worries about damaging my amp. So I will definitely be using it for that. That was the main thing, but then I discovered some other cool stuff with it. So And I'll talk about that in another episode. But yes, great question. Thank you for that.
Jason Taylor had a question about merged profiles.
Hey, Jason.
So I've always heard merged profiles are best for using live with a power amp and real cab, but it seems that not many people offer them in their packs. How do they compare to direct profiles? So for myself, I think merged profiles were a thing when that first came out. When that there was a lot of people doing them at first.
I don't see them that much anymore.
And now I don't see it. It seems to be like, I don't want to say a fad, but it's not something that you see a lot of people doing. And here's my understanding of it. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Direct profiles are what you just said. It's really just a DI out from the amp or a load box directly into the Kemper, and then you go and apply an IR or a Kemper, whatever Kemper
or a cab
calls it, after the fact.
Yeah.
Or you go live out to a power amp and a real cab.
Which sounds amazing.
Yeah, so you're doing some of those.
Yep, I'm starting to, yeah.
My original pack has some, but I've decided for me what works best is I'm going to be doing a basically like an expansion of any pack I do. There will be a separate box for direct profiles only, and I will be doing. I'm not going to do a ton of those. There's probably going to be 15 at most, and it will be a separate box just for that. I'm not offering merge profiles. My understanding with merge profiles are basically that it is a I don't want to get this wrong, but you're basically doing a direct profile, and then you're also doing a studio profile, and they're kind of merged. I guess the idea is that it's
best of both worlds kind of thing.
Yeah, it's basically like a better version of a studio profile. You and I are doing studio profiles right now, which is the entire rig.
Yep.
Merge profile is basically taking the direct profile and then without the cab, and then one with the cab, and you merge it. I don't know how to do that personally. I've never even invested the time to do it. I've done a little bit of research on them, but I've not seen a huge demand for them. So, Jason, if you know more about merge profiles and you think it's something that's definitely like worth investing more time into, I'd like to learn more about it myself.
Yeah, me too. It's one of those lost arts, I think, in the Kemper world right now. So I'd be happy to look into those myself if I can find out a way to make them work for you. So it's a great question. Thank you so much. So let's get into some other really interesting things here. This is the topic that me and Jay talked about at length one day, and it was kind of cool what we learned. Like, let's talk about the gain setting. Is the Kemper reading and displaying gain correctly? And I'm going to tell you a resounding no. It's going to be my opinion on that. So, and here's why. Let me ask you. What do you think? Do you think it reads it properly? It's just from my experience. No.
Yeah, I feel if I turn it down a little bit, it tends to react a lot more accurate than when I have to if I turn it up.
Gotcha.
And I even ran into this yesterday. I was profiling one of the set of profiles I gave to you for today, and I was playing around with it just to try something. And I'm like, oh, what happens if I back this down on the Kemper after I've already done the profile? Does it sound similar to how the module sounds? And it was pretty close.
Yeah.
But when you start going above, like I would say like one little LED more than what it
gets a little crazy.
It's not really that accurate to me.
So what I'll say though is that it's displaying it a certain way. Everybody's familiar with the wheel. You got the knob, the gain knob, and then you got the little lights that are indicators of where it's at. Okay, so I'll give you a couple examples. So I can take this amp right here, and I can put the gain at noon. And when I'm done profiling it, the Kemper will probably be around 2 o'clock with the gain. So it's off. So and this is very important. If there's nothing else that you guys get out of this episode, get this. So when you get the profile, you're going to see the gain at 2 o'clock on your Kemper, and you're going to be like, well, that's too high. I want my gain at noon. Well, you're artificially and inappropriately turning your gain down. It's really at noon on the amp. That's why I have the legend there. I have 9, 12, and 3. So if I say it's at 9 on there, it doesn't matter what the Kemper's telling you. the amp was at 9 o'clock when I profiled it. It doesn't matter what the Kemper. It's almost like when you tell a story and it gets around the room. By the time it's done, it's been embellished. The Kemper's embellishing some of the things. So there's the first thing. It's a little bit inaccurate. There's times that the Kemper does nail it for the most part, but most of the time it doesn't as far as what it's showing you. The gain does still sound and feel the same. It's just showing you that it's higher than it is.
I almost think of it as a game. It's like, what's it going to show up at?
Yeah.
So it's like let's see
bets.
what they've got, Johnny.
Place your bets.
Yeah. It's like, and I did a profile
Putting
of the
everything
Rev.
at noon.
I did a profile of the Red channel on my Rev about a week or two ago, and the gain was literally at like, I want to say 1 or 2 o'clock
on the amp. Okay.
I had the aggression level on, like the red level on.
That's the next point I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was, the Kemper thought the gain was at like 10.
Exactly.
Like there was no lights available.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God.
If they had more, I'd probably put them on there.
Yeah. I was just like, and it didn't sound like, I mean, that was one of those 92 percenters, not the 98 percenters.
Gotcha, but it still it didn't feel like your gain was floored. It just, yeah. So again, it's going to feel normal. It's just going to look like it's too high. Make sure you put that in there. Here's the other thing. 2 other points I want to make. So let's say I do a boosted profile. So I slam this thing with an overdrive. Okay, I take the golden pearl, I put it in front of it, and I profile it, and I got the gain at 11 o'clock. You know what the Kemper's going to show? Kemper's going to show the gain almost all the way up, every time. If a boosted profile, the gain on the Kemper will be all the way up most of the time. So whatever you do, don't take that gain and go, well, that's too high, and turn it down artificially or inappropriately. You don't need to. It's actually at the right spot because it's a boosted profile. So the Kemper doesn't know that you're boosting it. It's not going, oh, I sense a boost pedal here. Oh, it's a golden pearl. Let me adjust it.
It doesn't know.
It doesn't know. All it knows is, man, this amp is aggressive. You know, and it's really driving hard. So I'm thinking the gain is at, and it's almost like if you closed your eyes and somebody, messed with your amp and you're playing and they're like, guess where the gain is? Guess where the gain? That's literally what the Kemper's doing. It's blindly guessing where the gain is based on how the amp feels. And you didn't know that somebody turned on an overdrive pedal and you're like, oh, the gain's all the way up. No, it's still at the same spot. We just slammed it with an overdrive. So you're getting inaccurate displays of information, but you're getting an accurate sound and feel. If that makes sense. So please take note of that, okay? And this isn't just a one-time thing. I've noticed it with every amp and every pedal, every overdrive pedal that I've slammed the amps with. 99.9% of the time, it's all the way up on the Kemper. But again, it feels normal.
Have you ever done a profile that came out with the gain not at least at noon on the Kemper?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got some like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I do some wimpy ones.
Get out of here now!
Get out!
Half gain, I'm out of here.
Some of my profiles look like your biceps, and some of them look like mine.
Girly man, get out of here.
Flabinator. So, all right, so here's the other thing. Here's the other thing I want to say. So this is point 3 regarding gain. You can take an amp that has, I'll give you a perfect example, like this guy, the PRS MT15. It's a great amp. It's not overly super aggressive. It's a little bit dark, but it has a great chocolatey kind of sound to it. So you can profile this, and it will be more accurate as far as the gain settings go on, as far as what the Kemper thinks the gain's at on this amp than it would be on the Bogner Ubershaw. The Bogner Ubershaw is an absolute rage monster. I mean, that amp is just over the top, ridiculous aggressive. So I can set the gain on the Ubershaw at like noon, and the Kemper will think it's at like 4 o'clock, because it's so aggressive. So there's amps that have a lot of aggression in them, and the Kemper's going to read that aggression as gain, and it's going to go, well, because this amp's so aggressive, I'm pretty much thinking the gain's at like 4 o'clock. It's at noon. So don't take those profiles and turn the gain down because, unless you want to, but don't do it because it's in your head that you need to. Do it because of what your ears and your hands are telling you. So and especially with boosted ones, because of a boosted profile, the gain's supposed to be, I would say, within 3 lights, 3 dots, you can adjust. Anything other than that, you're going to get a very choked kind of sound and feel on that profile, because I've done it. I've turned the gain way down, and it's choked. It just sounds awful, you know? So it almost sounds like your cable's halfway plugged into your guitar. You know what I mean? It just gives you a crappy sound and feel. So adjust about within 3 dots, 3 lights on the gain knob on a boosted profile. So I hope that really helps you guys with gain, because that's something that really stuck home with me, that I learned when I was doing the profiles.
Helix Cabana Boy says that your neck of your guitar is pointing the wrong way.
What's up, Darren?
He's actually me, but...
Yeah, he's a lefty, man. Yep. He's a left-handed guitar player, so that's why he's here.
Be nice to me.
Because he's rare. Got to be nice to him. Jason Taylor says, thanks. Dude, Jason's awesome. He's here all the time. He's very supportive. Amongst other you guys, too. Very supportive crowd here. I very, very much appreciate you guys.
It's cool to be on the other side, because usually I'm the one that's...
Yeah,
I've been on the show, what, is this my 4th time? 3rd or 4th?
4th, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's cool to be able to talk to everybody on this side of the screen. So
exactly. Well, him and I share a lot of information with each other, and he's helped me a lot, and hopefully I've helped him at least a little bit. So, yeah, Jason said thanks for the answer. He said, I don't know enough about merge profiles, but maybe you don't see as many of them because they're more involved to make. Yeah, it could be. I've never made a merged one yet, but I'd like to. I'd like to give it a shot and see what that's all about. So, yeah, you're very welcome for the answer. Jason says...
Dude, I feel that's like getting like this toy as a kid, but no one will give you batteries to use it. It's like, that's horrible. Not having the Sin 2 to play your new module.
I know, that's awful. He said, stop talking about how great the Ubershell module is. He said, mine has been sitting here for weeks, but my Sin 2 somewhere else.
If it makes you feel better, I haven't even heard it myself.
Oh, you're going to hear it. I got it upstairs.
And you've got the module I brought over from Salvation today,
so we'll be messing with some modules later. But, dude, I can't wait to see what you think of that Ubershell. That thing is gnarly. I mean...
Uber good.
Yeah, you want to talk about Ride the Lightning? That thing is Ride the Lightning. I mean, they literally made that thing snort a whole line of cocaine before they put it in the box. I mean, that thing is ridiculous, man. You know, and they slapped it and said his mama was ugly. And they're like, okay, off to the customer you go. You open it up, it's like... okay, so let's talk about tricky amps.
It's tricky.
It's tricky. Yeah.
This is more your domain than mine, because I found tricky settings on my Rev.
Yeah.
And I will say this. So, like... I'll say the Rev. I have the Salvation. I'm really partial to the Salvation audio stuff. I think Antonin does awesome profile, awesome modules. I have the Terrier module from him, which is based on the Fryette Pitbull. It's like a mix of the Pitbull and a Deliverance amp. So it's got a voicing knob on it that all the way to the left, it's the Deliverance voicing. All the way to the right, it's the Pitbull voicing. Yeah. So until Synergy finally comes out with their official Fryette Deliverance and Pitbull modules, that's the only one out there that I know of for that. And that one has been tricky for me to profile so far. I did a couple profiles with it, and I decided to just wait until I get my Rev pack done and my custom 3 plus module done, which is going to be called the Nightmare pack. And I just need to take my time with it. You've run into a lot more tricky amps than I have. Yeah. What's been your experience with it? Why are they tricky? Which ones are tricky?
Well, the trickiest one that I've run into so far is this one right here, the Kraken. That is one very, very difficult amp to profile properly. Yeah, just release it.
Just release the Kraken.
It's like a total unicorn. It's such an amazing amp. It's dark but very aggressive, you know, and it's got a lot of great character to it. But profiling it, whenever I profiled it at first, it sounded like my strings were banging on the frets. It had this horrible clacky kind of disgusting like top end to it. It was awful. And it was like, I was like, all right, what did I do wrong? So I started refining it. Refining it made it worse. I didn't refine it. That made it better. And then I just decided that, this is going to be a fun one to capture properly. So I had to literally do a lot of different things with this amp, because most amps, when you profile it, afterwards you're going to turn the definition knob up to get that that same kind of crisp, crunchy kind of attack in the top end. It really helps bring out the top end, and you're like, there it is, okay, and you A/B it and you're like, caught it. Well, with the Kraken, you want to take the definition down, because the higher up you go on the definition on that amp, the worse it sounds. And it does sound awful if you turn the definition up. And I've heard other people do profiles of it, and I can hear it when they're doing the demo. They're like, yeah, I did this profile of the Kraken, and they're playing it. I'm like, I can hear all that string clack and that horrible top end, that brash, disgusting, I don't know what it is, almost like your neck's backbowed, and your strings are just slamming against the frets, and it sounds awful. And I'm like, I would not buy those profiles. And so what I ended up doing is I had to turn my eyes off and listen with my ears. And I had to turn the definition down to parts that I would normally be visually uncomfortable with to make it sound good to my ears.
After the profile was done?
After it was done. Because every time, so the Kemper read the Kraken as, oh, it sounds amazing with the definition at 10. Every time, 10. I'm like, this is the worst place to put it in. But Kemper read it that way.
It put it at 11 if it could.
It probably put it at 20 if it could. Because for some reason, the Kemper thought, yes, the definition should be there. And just so you know, every time Kemper does a profile, there's a setting on the definition that Kemper chooses that it thinks that mimics that amp. And on the Kraken, it thinks it mimics it perfectly at 10. And it does not. And I'm talking 4 to 5.5 is typically where I go definition-wise with it. Otherwise, there's exceptions, and I'll make those when I dial them in. But other than that, it sounds terrible. And then the Kraken is dark. Just so you guys know, I've been getting a lot of great feedback on the profiles, and I appreciate that. But most people that get the Kraken, they're like, yeah, it's kind of dark. I'm like, it's a dark amp. So there are amps that if you get the profile from me, I'm not going to do all that fake, EQing and stuff to make up for that. It's just a darker amp. So what you want to do is just turn it up, as opposed to adding a bunch of treble to it. Yeah, turn the treble knob up a little bit, but just turn the amp up a little more under the hood, and then every time you choose that profile, it sits in the mix better, So I wouldn't change the character of that amp too much. Because the thing is you got to think about it this way. If you're a sound engineer, and you're running sound for a band, okay, and everybody's got bright amps, dark amps, everything in between, you're not going to run up to the guy and say, hey, dude, turn your treble up. You're just going to freaking EQ them or turn them up in the mix accordingly on your board. So that's basically what you do. Just turn it up a little bit and just adjust a little EQ, and the Kraken sounds freaking killer, and you'll hear it tonight.
So what's up with the definition setting? What does the definition do for you, and why is that the one setting that you decide to adjust after the profile is done being made?
Okay, so I'll take the Kemper definition setting and look at it and go, all right, so there's times that it's way too low. It'll be in the 2s and 3s, and I'm like, I don't know why it's down that low. And I'll turn it up until the amp's character comes out properly.
So you check what the number is, and what if it sounds good and it's at 3?
Then I'll leave it there.
Okay, so yeah. It's really a matter of what I guess what I'm getting at is what are you hearing with the profile that's making you think that it's the definition? What does definition actually do? Is it Is it attack? What does that setting actually mean for you?
Good question. So basically what that setting means, what it does to me anyways, is it brings out the more character of the amp. It gives it more clarity. The top end is a little crisper. It's almost a little bit like your tone knob on your guitar to a certain degree. If you have it down too low, it's almost as if your tone knob's down all the way. If you have it up in a proper setting, it's right where your tone knob usually sits, which is all the way up. So, and then there's sometimes you got to go over that to capture that top end that I talked about earlier. Sometimes you're not getting the top end, and really all it is an adjustment on the definition knob or a mic setting, or you need to exaggerate the settings on the amp. So you have 3 choices basically. You can adjust with the definition first and go, there it is, I'm good, and save it that way. Or you can, point the mic at a different spot to capture more top end, or just exaggerate it on the amp. Kemper captures it, and you compare it, and you're good. So
now Aaron Short says I turn the definition up on most of my profiles. So if you're not profiling yourself and you're just you're just buying a profile pack or downloading one on the internet somewhere, that's something to try. And all you got to do is hold down the amp button, and you will see a different set of parameters show up. I believe you get definition. Yeah, you get definition, clarity, pick attack, or pick. And I think compression. I forget what. I think those are the ones that show up when you hold down that button.
Yep. I usually add more definition if I need to. And it all depends on your pickups too. Like if you got really dull kind of pickups that really are kind of muted, definition's going to help you big time. I haven't touched clarity. I've messed with it, but I'm kind of like, I don't really need to do this. I'm trying to remain a purist with this, and I don't mean to sound high-minded or whatever, but I want my profiles to be as pure as possible and not to be homogenized. So, like, I'll get into that later when we talk, about our goals and stuff. But for the most part, when you get a profile from because I think I can speak for Jay too, because we've talked about this, though, is they're not homogenized. They're about as raw as you're going to get. And even my tailored ones are raw. I've just backed the gain down and tightened them up and added a noise gate and overdrive and made them work well for rhythms or leads. Or I added effects for leads or whatever. That's what I mean by tailored. They're not homogenized though, So, but yeah, so that's kind of, hopefully that'll give you some insight on the tricky amps. Like this, again, some of the amps are tricky, Some of them, like I had a Mark 525 here from Jim Sieben. Dude, that amp profiled like a champ. I mean, it was like everything I did with it sounded perfect. The clean channel was 100%. 100%. There's no difference. It was chimey. It was piano-like. It had a nice warmth to it, just like the amp did. Piano. Yeah, it sounded amazing. The rhythm tones, the lead tones, the extreme, the JP, the Mark IV setting, all of it was just absolutely beautiful. And I'll play that for you in a few here. And it just sounds incredible. And it felt really good too. I mean, the feel of that amp is incredible. So some amps are really easy. And some amps are like, they're just going to be throwing you curveballs. And you literally have to sit here and play games with it. And try to like find ways. And usually I start with the definition or the mics. And then you can capture it. But some of them, like the Mark, I would say it'd be in the very high 90% percentile, as far as how accurate it was. The Kraken is going to be a little more in the low to mid 90s, and then you have to use the definition knob and maybe a couple other tricks to bring it up to that 98%.
I've found that this Nightmare pack I'm working on, the custom Audio 3 Plus preamp module, I found that one is actually like 98%.
Really? Oh, nice.
I found the rev, it depends on what settings I'm using, and it's really all driven by that aggression level.
Got you.
That when I start engaging those aggression level switches, that's where I start to find it sometimes can be a little bit trickier to capture it. Mule Blues asked about what about the clarity setting. Put it this way, I've messed with it, but I've never really noticed that it improved a profile that I've done. It
usually just changes.
So
it.
I just don't use it.
Yeah.
But I have messed with it.
Yeah. Same here.
And I just kind of leave it alone because I've never really found, oh man, like this sounds better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same with me. I think it doesn't make it better, it just makes it different. And I think it's handy in case, probably, again, everything that we say here is there's always exceptions to everything, and I haven't run into that exception yet with it, but I have used it, and I thought, well, I don't really need this, and in fact, most of the profiles, because I do my homework too, I'll check profiles of companies that I really trust, and I'll see what they've done, and like, well, should I be messing with this knob? And I don't see them doing it, and I'm like, well, I guess not.
Some
maybe,
people mess with the low and high shift in the cab section.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't either. I mean, put it this way: here's the thing. If I wanted like a tweaker's paradise, I'd go buy myself another Axe FX3.
Exactly.
And I loved that unit, and I would love to have another one. I just don't love spending $2,000 on it right now. But
I just want to take the pure approach.
Yeah, but when it comes to profiles, like if I have to do hardly any tweaking at all, I would rather just move on to another profile, because for me, to me, the profiles should be as accurate as possible as to what that amp sounded like mic'd up in whatever environment you're using.
Well, it's kind of like, I'll tell you a really stupid story really quick, and then we'll move on to the next topic. When I was a kid, I got milk out of the fridge one time, and I drank, I took a sip of it, and I was like, this tastes like crap. It was really sour. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with it? And we had Hershey's syrup in there. And so I put a bunch of Hershey's syrup in it to make it taste better. And then I got sick like 15 minutes after I drank it. And my mom was just like, what did you just eat? Like, you're sick. What happened? And I just told her, and she smelled the milk. She's like, oh, no wonder. So it's like you can put all the Hershey syrup in the world in a carton of milk that's sour and has gone bad, and it's still going to make you sick. So it's the same thing with these profiles. If they sound like crap, or they're just not up to par to the point where they're not at least in the 90s, you can tweak them and augment things and stuff, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be kind of fake and plasticky sounding. They probably won't feel right. And all the stuff that's been done to them to make them palatable and go down the hatch properly is just fake. I'd rather give you a raw profile that sounds incredible and then just enhance it. In other words, just, put the overdrive in front of it. Turn the definition up a little bit. Because those, I think, are appropriate things to do. As opposed to, well, this sounds like crap. Well, here's what I'll do. I'll add 3 EQ blocks, and I'll do this, and I'll boost that, turn this knob, and all you have is a bad science project. I'd rather just scrap it and give you a good one.
And now you're guessing again about what somebody would like.
Yeah.
Because you don't even yourself like it. So
yeah, if I don't like it, it doesn't go in the pack. Plain and simple. Again, I like some better than others, but I have to have that variance in there because not everybody likes what I like. So I have to at least have it in the kind of the folder of things that I would like anyways, and where at least I approve of it and think it's awesome. So all right, so we'll quickly go into these next couple topics, and we're almost there. So then after that, I'll play a couple of my profiles, Jay's going to play a couple of his, and then we're going to profile this live for you guys. I think Jeremy Vareo, hey Jeremy, he's in here, he said something. Maybe I missed it. Mike Jacobs, thanks, buddy. Thanks for the super chat. He said thanks for all the good info. You are welcome. Let's see, Jeremy said something. I'm trying to find where he said it. Make the profile sound like the amp. Yeah, Jeremy says, yep, make the profile sound like what the amp is actually putting out. You're right. I mean, that's really it. And again, anything other than that, it's fake. And I don't want to give people a fake profile, Okay, so the next quick topic here, we're almost done here, guys, so hang with us, is I just wanted this to be a one and done. Like, we've covered all this stuff, and there's a good source for people to go to. So Kemper EQ versus amp EQ, we kind of covered that. Like the treble knob on here is completely different than the treble knob on the Kemper, and same goes for every knob. They're all different. They all have their own sweep, their own starting and ending point. So, for instance, like I'm just throwing random numbers out there. Like on this amp, the treble could start at 10K and go to 15K. I'm just random numbers, but the Kemper one's going from 12 to 18. You know what I mean? So it's like they're all different. So
yeah, almost treat the EQ on the Kemper as like a studio EQ, and your amp EQ is the amp EQ.
Yeah,
it can't possibly account for how the EQ sweep is on your amp.
It can't.
Versus an EQ that you would find like on a mixing board.
It's just a mastering EQ. So here's the other thing. I would, because I have like in my folders, like the Taylor ones, I got bright ones, I got regular ones, sweet spots, I got all this stuff. Just pick one that works for you and then do minimal tweaking of that if necessary, and you're done. That way, you're literally, when you get a profile from either one of us or probably a lot of the guys out there, I can't speak for them because I don't know, but if you get one that just works, period, that really is how the amp was set up. You know, I mean, if I had the mid scooped a little and the treble bumped a little and the bass bumped a little, so it's like it's got that nice full aggressive sound, and you like that, just go with it. You know, because that's how the amp was set up to begin with. I didn't do anything to enhance that to make you think it sounded like that. It literally did sound like that. So, you know, just stick with that. You know, pick something that needs little to no tweaking. Boosted profiles, we'll talk about that just quickly, what we like, what we dislike about them. I'm not a big fan of boosted profiles. The only reason why I do them is because I know people like them, and I know this kind of maybe makes me sound like a hypocrite, because like, why would you do something you don't like? Well, the boosted, I don't like the concept, and the reason why I don't like the concept is I don't want anybody setting up my boost pedal. You know what I mean? Because that's really what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're letting someone else set up your boost pedal, and everybody's got their own way of doing things. And the last thing I ever want to hear before I go on stage is, "Bro, I dialed in your boost pedal for you." I'd be like, "Oh God, this is gonna be a crappy show," because I would be worried. I would go up there and go, "Oh no, we have to fix all this." So that's kind of what's happening, but you can get lucky and find a boosted profile that you like. And honestly, the ones that I did, I was like, you know, this isn't bad. You know, I could play this, but there's this thing about it with me is like, I'd rather just have a good profile and then boost it myself. You know,
I'm the same way. I'm a minimalist when it comes to guitar effects, and I even use an overdrive just as a boost. I think, like you, I don't use the gain on it really.
Yeah, I don't. Just a teeny bit. But
I think the Green Scream does a pretty good job in the profiler and the Kemper. I let people do that. I do have some profiles that have it on there, but like I said, my profiles are really the raw amp with different speakers and different mics. And from there, it's kind of up to you to decide what you want to do with it from there. Because I've run into a lot of profiles where they've added their own overdrive or, you know, some different effects to it that I would never use. And a lot of times what happens is I just skip right over it because I'm like, no, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And you just kind of start thumbing through it. And that, especially when you have a large profile pack. You just like tick, click, click, click. Oh, there's something.
Yeah.
And so I just prefer to not even mess with it for the most part.
Yeah.
I've done them. I know how to do them. You and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
I just prefer not to go that route.
Well, and the thing is with me, like my favorite boost pedal so far is the Precision Drive, but you can't do profiles with it because it's got a gate on it.
Oh, okay.
So I get all these. The Kemper will be like, "There's a gate in the chain," and it won't do it. I can't get past it. So I'll have to use a Golden Pearl or the Mesa Grid Slammer, which I like, but I highly prefer the Precision Drive. So I'm just literally making these because I know people like them, and again, when I play them, I'm like, these actually work pretty well, you know? Some I like better than others, but, you know, it's just the way it is, you know? So it's just a little bonus that I put in, and if people like them, great. If they don't, fine. It's just, there's probably like 3 or 4 in there, you know? So it's not like you got like 80 boosted profiles to choose from. I just do like 3 or 4, you know?
Jason Taylor's got a question here. Does the powered Kemper have the ability to bypass the power amp and use an external amp instead? If so, I'd suggest people who don't like it to try it through a tube amp and see the difference.
I think it does, doesn't it? I think you can run it out direct. There is a way to bypass it.
Yeah, I don't think you're forced to use that.
Yeah.
But I've never owned one, so.
Well, what I can say is I didn't have a powered Kemper here and tested it that way, but I had a passive Kemper that I ran into a solid state power amp into the Kemper cab. Paul Smith, friend of mine. By the way, hi Paul. He's probably watching now or watching later. And he was kind enough to bring over his Kemper cab for an episode and his power amp, which is solid state. Now here's the thing. I noticed the difference playing through the real tube amp when I compared them. It's in the episode too. Depending on, and I know this sounds weird, but depending on where you sat in the room, you notice the difference more or less, you know. But I did notice the difference. There was a little bit better feel with the tube amp, but it really depends on what you like, you know. Now, with the amp that comes with Kemper, I haven't played that particular power amp. I've heard good things about it, so, you know, but I always prefer the tube amps, you know, because I just think it warms the signal up a certain way, and you get a fuller sound. So it's a little warmer and a little fuller, you know. So, so the next topic, I think this is a little, so this we could do a whole episode on, but we're going to very quickly talk about this. How does the profiling differ for modeling, and what do we prefer? So I'll just give a quick, maybe 2 minutes tops thing, and then Jay will probably do the same thing, what our thoughts are on that. So I've had modelers. I have modelers. I have a couple of them here. Jay's had them. So I can tell you that I would prefer the Kemper, or at least profiling, over any modeler. Biggest reason why is I love this amp. I can't model this amp, but I can profile it, and I can profile it with any settings, any mics, any cab, any way I want, and I could do it until I'm sick of it, and to get it the way I like it. And nobody else can do that for me on a modeler. It's just when you get a modeler. Let's say you buy a modeler, Bob's Modeler product, and there's a MT15 in there. I guarantee you, it's not the way you would set it up. Yes, you can dial in the knobs and you can turn things and stuff, but the quality of that algorithm is only going to be what it is. You can turn the knobs all you want, but you're not going to change the quality of that product. You know, with the Kemper, the thing is, if the thing that drives me nuts is, oh, I played the Kemper and it sucks. Well, it wasn't the Kemper, it was a bad profile. The profile sucked. The Kemper is only as good as the profile that you're playing it with. So if you have a killer profile in the Kemper is the best thing you've ever played. If you have a crappy profile in the Kemper, it's a piece of crap, and I don't know why anybody would want to buy it, you know? And if you have an in-betweener, you're just kind of like, I'll stick with my modeler. You know what I mean? So you have to play something that's modeled or that's profiled the way you like it. And only you know what you like. So if you did it, I'm telling you, who makes the best profiles? You do. I'll tell you that right now. You're the best profiler you'll ever meet. But that is only if, there's the exception, right? If you want to put in the time to do that. you know? So, but I've said this for a long time now. The Kemper is like a 3D printer, where a modeler, it doesn't matter what brand. They're all like, modeling is modeling. So I'll say this, profiling is like a 3D printer. Modeling is like a really good LaserJet full color printer. You know, I'll take the 3D any day because it just gives you more. You got texture, you got depth, the feel is better. There's more character on profiles, and you can have any amp you want, where modelers, you're at the mercy of whatever they're going to do for you.
Well, I think that's why there's so much excitement for the Quad Cortex, is because it can do both.
Exactly.
So
That's
if you're a
cool.
modeling guy, you're going to be able to take advantage of Neural DSP's modeling technology, which is top notch. And if you're a profiler, if you're a guy that likes to profile, you're going to have their capture technology, which no one's really heard yet. So we don't really know how good it's going to be, but from everything we've been seeing with all the specifications from Neural DSP, it's going to be, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm definitely interested in.
Oh yeah, me too.
But I'm not disciplined enough of a player or studio person to own a modeler, because I will spend all my time just trying things. Like for me, it's like, oh man, I've never tried a Splawn. What does that sound like? I've never tried this amp. What does that sound like?
Yeah.
And before I know it, I'm not making profiles. I'm not recording songs. I'm not writing songs. I'm not doing anything other than trying things out. Yeah. It's kind of like getting a keyboard and you don't really know how to play piano. You just want to hear all the cool sounds it can make.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid and watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he could make the keyboard cough and sneeze and stuff. Like I want to do that, you know. Like never mind that I don't know how to play piano. I just want to be able to do all these cool sounds. That's kind of how I look at modelers. And I've had the XFX3, I've had the XFX2, I've had the Ultra. I've never had any Line 6 products, but I know that they're top notch stuff. But I will get lost in the all the different possibilities of what they offer. And I think they're great tools. But for me, I would much rather own, you know, some good amps, modules, and then have a Kemper as a studio tool and as a tool for myself and say, okay, you know I really like this sound from my Rev. Let me profile it. And when I go to practice in a room away from my studio, I can take my Kemper with me and I can use that tone that I'm used to, that I know.
Yep.
Now I can be completely focused on what I need to do for the next hour working on this music versus trying to find a sound.
Yeah.
Do I want to use the Orange today, or do I want to use the Splawn today? Do I want to use the Friedman, or do I want to use a Diesel? Yeah. It's like you can get so lost in that stuff. Yeah. And some people are really disciplined and they know, hey, these are the 4 amps that I really go to, that I like, that I'm going to record, and I'm not going to worry about all the other 250 that are in the XFX.
Yeah.
I can't do that, and I know I can't.
Yeah, know thyself. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, if you're going to end up in tweak land for a week, and meanwhile your skills are atrophying, it's probably not a good idea for you to get a modeler.
And I'm a drummer, so I'm not that good of a guitar player to begin with.
So. You're fine, dude.
But I mean, that's the thing, is I love sounds. I love to try different sounds. Yeah. That's why I have different microphones and speakers and stuff, is I like to see, you know, can I create what I hear in my head?
Well, and to be fair to the modelers too, like a lot of modelers out there, a lot of them are mainly made to be 4-cable method type products, and they do that way better than Kemper does. Like I'm not going to take my Kemper out and use it as a 4-cable method unit with my amps. It's just, you can, but
it's gotten a lot better from what I've heard, but I'm not a big effects guy, so I'm more of a meat and potatoes guitar player. So
I'll use my Helix if I'm going 4-cable.
Okay,
you know, the Helix is like, that thing kicks everything's butt.
Yeah, your delays are like amazing.
Thank you.
I just don't like. I asked him. I'm like, hey, can you like send me a profile of like what your delay sounds like? Because I have no idea. Like, I don't play leads that much. So for me, it's like, unless it's something like a simple like droning type lead that I do on some of my songs, I don't do a lot of leads. But I know you guys, you know, do out there. Yeah. So for me, it's like I want to at least dial in something that if you hit the button right away, you're going to get something good. So that's something that you've helped me with, because I'm just not that kind of a player.
Well, it just, it depends. Like, I'm actually got an episode coming up, Fun with Delay. I'm going to do that because I think I love delay. It's one of my favorite effects. Probably is my favorite effect, and I get pretty creative with it. So I love messing around with it. But yeah, so I mean, that's basically, you know, to recap, I mean, like I said, we could spend hours on this, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to belabor this, but we've already done the shootouts. Watch those. I mean, the Kemper, it won all of them as far as like what sound and feel goes. Like tone and feel, Kemper beat everything every single time, because that's what it was made for. Kemper was made to replace your amps, because, you know, let's face it, as touring musicians, you don't want to take... I don't want to take my Kraken out on tour. Are you kidding me? It's going to come home all bashed up and beat up, and that's a special amp. But I can capture the spirit of the Kraken.
The crapper!
The crapper! I can capture the spirit of the Kraken and get it so close that really I can't tell much of a difference between it at all, and put it in my Kemper, take it on tour, and come home, and my Kraken's in perfect condition when I come home. That's what the Kemper was made for. It really was made for that. So you could take your favorite amps on tour with you without taking them on tour with you, and without getting them all banged up, and, you know, all that stuff. So but again, 4-cable method, I'll use my Helix with a real amp. Absolutely. You know, so that's how it works.
The Chicago Todd says, Jared's delays are caused by good whiskey.
What's up, Todd? Good to see you here, buddy. Yeah, I love delay. It's just awesome. And I'll play something for you in a minute here. So, real quick, I our individual goals for profiles and our customers. So I'll give you the elevator pitch for what I'm doing, and Jay will do the same, and then we'll start playing here. Okay.
Got some pictures too.
Yeah, we got some pictures we got to show you. So thanks for reminding me. So basically, my goal with profiles is I want you to have a real experience with the amps that I'm profiling. I want you to have, like, the whole thing where it's like when you're playing this, you actually really think and feel and you hear the amp, the spirit of that amplifier. All the words that I say on my show, chewy, it's percussive, it's tight, it's sticky, whatever the amp's characters are, I want you to experience that character. And if that character cannot be captured with my profile, then I will keep working until I capture it. And every single one of them so far, I've captured it. It's taken some work, some tricks, but again, I keep it organic. I've just learned how to capture these things better. And I want you to I want your hands and your ears to be equally happy with the profiles. I don't want you to think, oh, these sound great, but they feel like crap, or they feel great, but they sound like crap. I want both parties to be extremely happy with the profiles, and I want to literally give you the same experience as if you were playing the amp for real. And if you like the taste that I have and the way I dial things in and the way I capture that, then hopefully I could be your guy. Hopefully I can be somebody, at least one of the people that you come to for profiles of certain amplifiers. And I want to capture. My goal is to make profiles for players, because here's the thing: there's a lot of profile makers out there that make great profiles, but there's a lot of them that, okay, everybody makes really good profiles. It just depends on your taste. But I feel like there's this part of the market where there's profile makers that are making them for studio engineers that do this all day. Turn a knob, turn a knob, turn a knob. And they're turning knobs and they're reamping on a Kemper so they can hear how it sounds in a mix. But their hands aren't involved. So all they're looking for is something that's homogenized and thinned out, and all the stuff that makes it feel amazing is gone so that it can sit in a mix properly. My goal is to give you something that feels good as well, and you don't have to worry about it being so overly homogenized. Can they be used in a mix with a studio engineer? Yeah. High and low shelf filters, okay? A high-low pass filter, and take the 4K and find out where it's annoying, pull it down a couple dB, and you're done. So it's not hard. It's just it's not going to be plug and play for them. They have to actually put in 30 seconds worth of work to make it work. So what? But I want my profiles to be enjoyable for players. I want them to be reactive. I want them to feel great. I want them to play it and feel the pick digging into the strings and have that reaction and have that volley with the sound that they're playing and have an experience. That's kind of what my goal is, So the elevator went up probably more floors than it should have.
I was just going to say, the elevator is like...
shot through the top of the building. All right, so you got 2 floors. Just
tight, articulate amps with variety, different speakers, lots of different microphones, trying to push the limits of what the amp can do, giving you a lot of different flavors for an amp. It's never going to be an amp that I wouldn't use myself. I don't believe in buying... I don't have the money or believe in buying a bunch of amps just for the sake of profiling them.
Yeah.
It's all going to be stuff that kind of fits my style of playing, which is more of a rhythm style. I'm a rhythm guy. I'm more of a punk rock, in your face, big, I would say, like I said, tight, articulate tones. I'm a guy that likes, bands like Megadeth and Metallica, but I'm really big into like Helmet and Quicksand and 90s stuff, like alternative metal stuff. I'm not somebody that's going to give you a profile pack that's going to have a bunch of effects on it, because honestly, I think everybody's idea of what effects work for them is going to be different. So it's really a focus on variety of different tones from an amp that fits the kind of stuff that I play. So, and on my website, I talk about, why I think my profiles are unique. And my profiles, here's the thing, there's a lot of profilers out there that do metal stuff. And Jared is really like all about getting the actual sound from the amps. He cares about you as the customer. And all the discussions I've had with Jared, it's all been about being authentic and having organic amp sounds and not sitting here for 20 minutes and taking one profile and tweaking it to death. We both believe in you guys taking the profiles and making it work in the mix for whatever you guys are doing instead of trying to assume what you want. I think that's kind of a losing situation.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that do vintage stuff. There's a lot of guys that do the hard rock stuff really well. But when I was going through profile packs and I was trying to find stuff that worked for me, I came up against a roadblock. I didn't really find a lot of guys that played what I play. You know, I'm a 40-year-old dude that grew up in the 90s listening to, you know, alternative metal and grunge rock and punk rock. And there's just not a lot of profiles out there that really kind of fit that mold for me, where it's like, I guess, slightly high gain, you know, more than mid gain, but not quite all the way, you know, metal. And that's kind of where my sweet spot is more in that punk rock to alternative metal, you know, area. That's my sweet spot. That's what I play in. That's what I go for. Can you use my profiles for metal? Absolutely. But I think Jared's more of your metal guy. Definitely the progressive metal, the guy, he's got the whole effects thing down. Like I said, I kind of borrowed from him, got advice from him on that. But for me, it's more meat and potatoes, rock, you know, just in your face, bitey, you know, in your face, punk rock tones.
Yep. And there's plenty of guys that like that. So the link's below if you like that. So click on that and visit his store. He's got like the OG pack, and you got other packs coming out very soon.
Yes, right? The Rev purple and red pack, and then the Nightmare pack, which will show. I've also got packs coming out for some different Salvation audio modules that I have because I'm a Synergy guy too. So.
All right, so quickly, what we'll do is we'll go through the pictures of your Box of Doom and some of your box art, and then we'll play and do a profile and call it a night. So here's Jay's. Go ahead and describe what they're seeing here.
So this is the Box of Doom. It's an isolation box. You can see in there's a Royer 121, a 57, and a 421. So those are the mics that I use the most. The 421 and the 57 is my favorite combination, and that speaker you're seeing right there, it's just rotated, but the whole thing is that's like a flight case that seals up, and inside it is those mics and the speaker, and I will change out speakers almost like you would change out a cartridge. This is the box art for the Nightmare pack that's going to be coming out soon, and this is based on the Custom Audio 3 Plus module. It's actually a preamp from the 80s and 90s. Bands like Megadeth used them, and a bunch of other bands used them. This is the Red General purple channel pack. This is the direct profiles. So as you can see, it's kind of got that silver logo to it. Anytime you see that, those are all direct profiles, and this is the red one. So this is the red channel. So you'll see that there's going to be a direct profile pack for both the red channel and the purple channel of the Rev. And we'll wait till the next picture shows up here, which is just another. So I have 4 speakers that I work with. First one on the right is a Celestion Redback. There's also a Warehouse Veteran 30 and a Celestion Vintage 30 all the way to the left. And then inside the actual Box of Doom right now, I just took a picture for Jared because I'm in the middle of profiling my custom audio module with this is the Reaper 30. So it's a 30 watt speaker from Warehouse, and it's the Reaper, and it's just another image of it there. So it allows me to mic up 3 mics at one time.
That's awesome.
I typically don't use all 3 at one time. You know, you can get into a lot of phase issues with that.
Yeah.
But the 421 and the 57 right now is like my favorite mic combination. And the 121 and the 57 is a standard. There's a little mount that you saw in there that actually makes it so that they're perfectly in phase. But that is one of the challenges when you're with me is, I'm doing a lot of mic combination stuff. You're doing your i5 and your 609. When you
Dual
start,
mics are the way to go. Man.
Yeah, it just you can
so much better.
A lot of my profiles will be like, okay, let me give you a little bit more of the 57, and let me give you a little more of the 421.
Yep.
The 57 is going to have that little bit more of the fizz, a little bit more of the bite.
Rasp.
Yeah, and then the 421 has got more extended high and low range frequencies, so it's going to give you a little bit full picture of the speaker. But for guitar, sometimes that's not what you want.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it depends on what you like. So I mean that's why we do so many profiles. I mean within reason of course, but you got to find the one that's magic for you. And I do the same thing. Like I went through my Mark V's, and I found number 11 was like the one that spoke to me. That was like, there it is. That's the one I want, and that's the one I'll be demoing tonight. I'll be demoing the Kraken first, but the thing is, though, is that one just spoke to me. But that doesn't mean it's going to speak to everybody. There'll be maybe other people like number 9 or number 4.
Number 9?
Number 9? Yeah. So anyways, okay, so you guys have waited long enough. Let me, I got my Kemper fired up here. I'm just going to play a couple riffs on the Kraken. I was going to do a mix, but you know what? I'm not going to do a mix tonight. I'm just going to play a couple riffs on each one of my profiles. I got 2 or 3 of them I'll show you real quick, and then Jay will do a couple, and then we'll go ahead and profile the MT and then call it a night. So here you go. Okay, so that's the Kraken. And here's the Mark V 25. Okay, so there's a couple of them, so I'll just describe, like, again, the Kraken's a darker amp. It's a little darker, so the Mark V might sound a little bright compared to it, but the Mark V actually is normal. So when I go back and forth, so I'm on the Mark V right now, I'll go back to the Kraken and show you the difference. Okay, so it's not because I didn't profile it right, it's just a darker amp.
Yeah.
So what you do is, if you really love the Kraken, and God, I love that amp. I love them both. Just turn the Kraken up a little bit and maybe nudge the highs a hair on the Kemper, but you just want to turn it up a little bit under the hood, where you got that section where you can just turn things up. So just do that, and that'll take care of that. So they're all different. They all have their own character. And so you're not hearing me profile the amp. Oh, he profiled it dark. No, it's a dark amp. The rev can be a bit bright. So like, if you, so it'll capture like I got rev profiles I'm going to release, and that will sound a little brighter. So it just depends on what you like,
Wonder where that amp came from.
What's that?
rev.
Oh, yours? I think it was yours, wasn't it? Okay, so which ones do you want to do? We'll just pick 3 because we're running out of time.
Yeah, let's do some rev ones.
Okay, so let's go.
I'll do a couple rev and we'll do a couple nightmares.
Okay, so you want to do the 2 revs that you got here and then the 2 following nightmares?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to mute the mic. Go ahead. Okay, so we're going to do the next rev. This is a 121.57 mixed with the mics, and then this next one is a 421.57.
All right.
Here we go. Okay, let's do, I think this was your favorite, the number 4. Was that your favorite?
Sure.
Earlier? Okay.
They're all my favorites.
Yeah, so this is the nightmare. Okay, one more. Do this one. Okay, so you got an idea of like what we both do, you know, and they're vastly different. So depending on what player, so we did this because we wanted to show you like how different we are as profilers. You know, I mean, what he does, he captures the way that he captures it, and it's coming from a perspective of a guy who plays the type of music that Jay plays. You know, so if you play that type of genre, you know, then he's your guy. You know, if you want metal, like he said, he's got some metal stuff as well that you could make work for you, you know. I'm more of a metal guy, prog guy, you know, hard rock, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, it just depends. Again, I mean, who do you want to cook your steak depending on what steak you're looking for, you know. So we did this to show you how vastly different profilers are, you know. So it's like, is that what a rev really sounds like? Well, that's what it sounds like when Jay mics it up and dials it in, you know? You know, because again, there's a difference between an amp in a room and a mic'd up amp. So what you're getting is a mic'd up amp.
I told you before, it's kind of like, you know, when you're in the room and you're playing guitar,
mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, I can't speak for you, but like we're looking at your cabinet over there.
Yeah.
And where is it pointed at? Your shins, right?
Yeah, it's pointed at my shins. Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to take your ear and then walk over to your amp and put your ear in front of that amp, that's what your microphones are hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when people say, oh, it's cool, but it doesn't sound like amp in the room, well, nothing will sound like amp in the room except for amp in the room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you go to listen to a profile and it sounds like it's really in your face, that's because the mics are right up on that grill.
Yep.
And that's what you're hearing. And if you don't know yet, maybe what mics you like best, a 57 and a 421 sound completely different. A 121 and an i5 and they all these mics are designed to capture things differently.
Exactly.
And so when you stick those mics on that amp, you also got to think about where is it placed. Well, if it's placed more on the cone, you're going to get a darker sound. If you place it more on the dust cap, you're going to get a brighter sound. Do you like a brighter sound? That's where all these variables come into play.
Well, and that's why we use 2 mics or 3 mics, because I want to capture the meat and the gravy and the, you know what I mean? The potatoes, the gravy, the everything. I want to give you the whole meal, and try to capture enough low end for you, and enough high end for you so that I can blend that. And that's really what it's about. That's why, again, if you sent his Rev to 10 different profilers and even gave them the same mics and same cab to run to profile it with, the profile packs would be vastly different from each other. They really, really would, and that's where you pick the ones that work best for you, So there's really no true, like, this is the correct profile of the Rev amp or the MT15. No, there's no such thing. They're all different. You just got to pick the one that works best for you. And I know that sounds PC, but it really is the truth, Yeah,
the profiles that I brought today, I purposely brought ones that were only of the profiles of these 2 amps using the Reaper 30 speaker, because I know you're using vintage 30s. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to bring something different. Yeah. It's a vastly different speaker.
Yeah, it really is.
So all these things come into play, and it
all matters.
It's a great, to me, the Kemper is a great way to learn about different mics and speakers and what you like and what you don't like.
It's a great teacher. It really is. If you really see, if you really listen to it, it'll teach you a lot of cool things, and you just got to be honest with what you're hearing, Jason Taylor, he says, I'm not having dinner tonight, so I'm giving you guys my DoorDash money.
Dude, Jason's been like all...
Jason, you rock, man.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man.
He said, thank you so much for a great show. Thank you, man. Seriously, I appreciate that very much, Jason. It really means a lot. James Underwood, thanks for the awesome info. Hit me up if you want to borrow that Matrix for a shootout. Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much. And I will do that. I think that would be a great idea. So thank you again so much.
A couple of you guys bought my OG profile pack, and all I can say is I'm humbled and I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. Thank you for letting me be on your show.
Yeah, of course, man. And, thanks for being here.
And share this stuff with these guys. I love interacting with you guys online when I'm not on the show. Yeah. Which I feel like I'm sort of like like the Saturday night featured guest now.
Yeah, that's funny.
I do appreciate it, and like I said, there's more to come. And we've been having a lot of fun doing this stuff.
Oh, for sure.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't,
let me find. I'm gonna find something so I can do profiles here.
Yeah, if you guys have not profiled your own amps though with the Kemper yet, I highly recommend that you give it a shot. Though
you're missing out if you don't.
I didn't realize I was still.
Oh no, I'm just finding PRS. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do.
You want your?
Yeah, please.
No! Get out of here! Give me it!
So what we're gonna do now is I haven't even set this up, to be honest with you. I just plugged it in, so this is gonna be interesting. Because I haven't even dialed this in yet as far as like what I'm gonna do. Normally I sound check the profiling process because it's loud. So if I'll watch the meter here and make sure it's not too loud for you guys, but I'm going to profile this thing right now live and show you. I already have it mic'd up. I already have all the ins and outs hopefully hooked up properly. It was kind of a rush job, but so let me
all of a sudden you forgot how to profile.
Yeah, you hear all that noise?
Damn.
Yeah. So let me all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to run the profile. I'm going to mute the room mic, but you will hear the cabs going crazy. And I'll watch the meter and make sure it's not too loud. But, dude, I'm telling you, if you live in an apartment, don't do profiles in your apartment because you will get kicked out.
Or get an ISO cab like
me.
me.
Yeah, because it's loud. It's lickety loud. Okay, so 1 second here. Here we go. Hang on 1 second, guys. I got the live mic again.
Kemper is just reading a different volume.
Yeah, I'm restarting my Kemper right now because I've never dealt with this before. It's never done this to me. It's saying it's not capturing the volume very well. I don't know why, because it's loud as hell in here.
So what's feeding to the Kemper?
Right here, the send. Yep,
from what?
From the send right here, send 1, and then returns coming into return 1. That's how I hook it up every freaking time.
Okay, let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot. Hang on 1 second, guys.
I like
Okay.
that. I like that Jim Sieben said, "Try swearing at it. Sometimes that helps." Because we've ushered about like 20 cuss words at your. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes that's just the way live TV
Live
works.
TV,
but...
guys. Something I set up the board tonight for the show, and I don't think I set it up for profiling. I did not do the test on the profiling before we went live, and because of that, it's giving me error messages saying that it's not getting enough signal. I don't know why it's not getting enough.
It's loud as hell in here.
Hell in here. It's super loud. In fact, we're low now because I had to turn us down because I was watching the meter and it was spiking like crazy. And I've done live profiles on the show before, and they've worked perfectly. But for some reason, I can't get it to. I got something hooked up funny in the board over here, and I can't figure out what the hell happened. That's why you don't do things without testing them first. We didn't have time. We were busy doing other things.
Eating tacos.
Yeah. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is.
Do it, Doug!
I know what it is. This is a new setting, and I did not turn the monitor up. That's why. So I got to turn these monitors up.
You idiot!
Yeah, I figured it out. All right, this is what happens when you do profiles. All right. So...
Get out of here now!
I'm going to redeem myself now. It might take me a second or two to get this right, but trust me, on this board, see, I had a different preset on it because we were doing band practice the other day. Whenever you change presets on this board, it turns all the it turns the monitors all the way down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I forgot that they were all the way down. I'm using a monitor out on the board to run to the Kemper. So give me a second, and I'll make this right. Here we go. Okay, I turned my thing. Okay, so that was the problem. I had the freaking monitor off that was attached to the Kemper. I had it all the way down because, again, this board turns the monitors down every time you change presets, which I hate that. That's the one thing I hate about this board, yeah. So, note to self, every time you change presets, adjust the monitors. So I just did the profile, okay, and that's kind of some of the stuff we go through when we make profiles. There's these little technical glitches that happen or whatever, and it's like it gets frustrating at times, and it's kind of risky to do these live.
No!
Especially when you don't test things before.
What if it doesn't work?
Well, the thing is I have a rule. I don't do anything live unless it's tested, but tonight we literally last minute we slid into, to the show.
Let's do a profile live.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, let's do this, and I didn't even test it. So anyways, I did the profile, so let's go ahead and I'm going to play the profile now, and I'm going to make some adjustments for you, okay? 1 second. Okay, I just have to store the profile real quick. Next. Okay, so I'm going to clear all this out. And I'm just going to call it DE just for the show. I don't care. Okay, so let me play it real quick, see where we're at. Okay, so that's it raw. Okay, so I haven't touched it. I haven't done any adjustments at all. And so I'm going to go into it right now. Hold down the amp button, and I'm going to see where we're at. So definition is at 7.1. Okay, so that's pretty much, that's not bad. That's actually a pretty good setting for the definition. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn the green screen on in front of it and see how that interacts with it. And I'm sure it'll tighten it up really nice and add that amount of aggression that I like. But, alright, so here is a testament to what we were talking about. What does the gain say where it's at?
I can't read it from here.
You can't? Oh, you can't?
No. Sorry, I can't really tell.
Right here.
Oh, it's at like
3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Just about 3 o'clock. Where's it at on the amp? Gain, right here. About 2 o'clock. So it's pretty accurate on this amp because, again, like I said earlier, it's not that aggressive of an amp, but it does read higher. Okay, so you always have to be careful, know your amps. Like if an amp is really aggressive and the gain's showing really high, I don't really think it was profiled that high. It's just a little higher than what the amp was set at because the amp's really aggressive. Okay, so I'm going to turn the overdrive on now and see how that sounds. Okay, so here it is with the overdrive on.
Some of that.
Okay. Let me switch it over here.
Let me have a hit.
Let me have a hit. Puff, puff, pass, baby. So that's basically what that sounds like. And it sounds a lot, it's very, very close to what this amp sounds like. So what I would do is I would dial in, I would turn up the definition a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while you're playing. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I'll turn it up while you're playing. Good, right? Yeah, it's gnarly. Okay, so let me hit this real quick. Sorry about the technical difficulties, guys. Again, if I don't test things before I go live, it's always a disaster. It wasn't anything the Kemper did wrong. I just didn't have the monitor associated with the output the Kemper listens to the amp with on. It was completely turned all the way off. So I was like, why is this not working? This makes no sense. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to play this real quick. Hang on 1 second here. Okay, what you're hearing right now is the MT15. Okay, that's what you're hearing. And I'm going to switch to the Kemper while I'm playing here. I've got to do a quick thing here to switch it, but I'll just give me a second here. Okay, so that was the Kemper. So I'm going to play the Kemper for a minute and go back to the amp. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the definition back down to 7.1 just to keep it, because I tightened it up a little bit. So we're at 7.1, which is exactly how it profiled. The overdrive is off because there's no overdrive on the amp either, and you're going to hear very little difference between these two. I'm on the Kemper now. I'll switch from that to the amp after I play this riff, okay? 1 second. Okay, and that's just a quick profile I did. You know, nothing fancy. You know, obviously no setup because I had the technical difficulties. But, I mean, that sounds pretty freaking accurate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's like...
Sounds like it does in the room.
Yep. Very, very little difference, if anything at all. I mean, this amp profiles like a champ. I mean, it really does. In fact, you know what? Just to be thorough, you play them both. And tell me what you think.
Oh, it's so different.
So I'm gonna let you. I'll start you on. We're on the amp right now, so I'll go ahead and play that, and I'll switch you over to the Kemper. Okay. All right. Let me mute the mic. Okay, so what do you think?
Dude, it feels great.
Yeah.
Like, it honestly, like, feels really good. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, it might be because I'm 3 drinks in, but honestly, it feels good. It sounds good. It feels really good, though.
Yeah, it turned out really good. And again, that was just a slap together. That was literally a slap against the wall profile. I literally did not, obviously did not even set up for it at all. So, I mean... So imagine how much better it would be if I actually spent the time. I actually came down here, dialed things in, made the, you know what I mean?
Dude, it was a monitoring thing, dude. Yeah, like, it had nothing to do. I mean, like, you've been doing these profiles, like,
for months.
Like, crazy. It's just...
I'm literally pulling my hair out. I'm like, oh my God, we're
What's
live
it
right
doing?
now. Like, freaking work, will you?
Stop it!
All it was a stupid monitor was all the way down. But anyways, this is one of those things that I'll never live down.
And that is live TV.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, too, it's like anybody that was like, that wants to mock me, here's the perfect chance. Like, oh, look at him. Thinks he can make profiles. Can't even do one live. Yeah. Turn your monitors up. Anyway, so, but that's a testament to how accurate the Kemper is. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like the first time you do it yourself, it's like it's literally like when you hear the difference between the two, which is hardly any, you'll be like, oh my god, I just did that. Like I just created this profile out of like holy crap, this actually works. And again, once you, it's one thing to eat the pizza. It's another thing to see how the pizza's made. And it's another thing entirely to make the pizza yourself. And what we did tonight was made the pizza ourselves, and then we got to eat it, and we were like, wow, this really is legit. It's really good.
One thing I will say, if you're doing your own profiles, this is very, very important. I was talking to you about this when you first started doing profiles, is the way that you monitor things is really important.
Yep.
I have an isolation box. We showed you the images of that. And for me, like that allows me to be able to turn my amp up at louder volumes without an attenuator and be able to really capture the amp at higher volumes. And if you really want, like we were in the room here, but when you play the profile and then you play the reference amp, we're feeling all this air coming through, you feel the amp.
Yeah.
When you play the profile, you don't get that.
Yeah.
So when you're actually monitoring, when you're doing your own profiles, if you're actually going to be miking up your own amp, try to get the cabinet in a different room. Try to find a way to get it so that you're being as completely objective as you can.
Isolated.
Yeah, because all that low end that you hear, a lot of that is when you're actually trying out your amps, is the low end that that speaker in that cabinet resonating, filling up the room, bouncing off the walls and the ceiling and all that stuff. And your profile is not going to do that. So when you start comparing your reference amp to the actual profile, you're going to hear or you're going to feel this lack of low end and depth. Because you're not going to feel it because the profile is not going to be coming through the speakers that you're actually miking up.
Yep.
So you got to take that into consideration. So if it's at all possible, get your cabinet in a different room.
Yep.
Find a way to separate yourself from. I mean, it's gonna like we were sitting in the room here. It's loud.
Yeah,
it's damn loud.
It's so loud.
And so if you can find a way to monitor what the actual speaker sounds like with the mics on it without having to sit here and hear and feel the cab right in front of you.
Yeah, it's better.
It's going to be better for you because I'm not going to say it's a guessing game otherwise, but it makes it more challenging.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, that was a slap together profile. When I'm down here, literally like with my coffee, and stuff like that. And I'm making profiles in the morning with fresh ears. I mean, it's a completely different thing where I'm like focused. I don't have all the live stream stuff on my mind, and they turn out amazing. They really do. And and this sounds great. I mean, a couple guys even said like, sounds great. Jason Taylor said this profile sounds a bit warmer and cleaned up with less amp noise. Yeah, because this is a noisy freaking amp. That's one thing I will say. I mean, I love this amp, but it's noisy. And that's one thing about the profiles is you get the profile without all the noise.
Yeah, and try the gate. To me, the Kemper has one of the best gates.
Really does.
That I've ever used.
Yep.
And one other trick that you can try is especially if you throw a green screen and like right on top of the profile. Try putting a gate
right after it. Yep, that's what I do. Because
sometimes you get those little weird spaceship sounds. Those little, you'll hit the thing, and all of a sudden you'll hear.
Yeah, it's like weird.
Like the.
It takes care of that.
Add a gate right after your overdrive, and it'll fix that.
Yep.
And we tried that. That's one of the things you and I were kind of messing around back and forth with.
Yep, it really does fix it. So. Well, hey, it's been a long night. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for being here. There's so many things that you guys could do with your time on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights when we go live, and I'm honored that you chose to spend it with us. And I hope that you found this informative, and I hope that you all had fun laughing at my expense.
I did.
Profiling to work. Dude, I was sweating bullets. I'm like, oh my God, what?
I don't know what it is.
So, anyways, but hey, I'm human. Stuff happens. I forget to turn things up from time to time. But anyways, well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the kind words, the super chats, and for spending your evening with us. And, I will be live with Carrie on Sunday night. And sometime within the next week or so, I'm going to go live with the 2 notes. The Chapter X, so I can't wait to do that. Thank you for being here,
dude. Thank you for having me.
It was fun.
I had 3 of you guys bought a profile pack for me today, and like I said, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, very much appreciate it. So I know it was about an hour drive for you, so that's it is what it is. So well, again, thanks guys, appreciate it, and take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Every day's a gift, and enjoy every one of them, because we never know how many we get, right? So you guys take care. I will see you on Sunday night, man. Cheers, guys.